Ranjit Saab.
Hello, good evening, Kirti bhai.
Thank you, Saab. Chandrakant bhai, आप चेन्नई पुणे से हो? आप you to unmute.
Kirti ji, Pranjali ma'am, we are all good to go. We can start the webinar now.
Okay.
Hi,
I'm an architect
Mary.
from.
I couldn't believe this, Mary.
Yes, hi, Kirti from
I
Manila.
Can't believe this. How did you get this to you?
Well, you have a magical communication system.
For anyone's information, Mary is probably the youngest person in this group. Mary.
Younger than
Mary,
you?
how Mary is from Philippines. She is in Manila.
Excellent.
And we've known each other for about 40 years now.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
When we were children.
She is doing such immense amount of community work in mobilization work as well. I think in Manila and Philippines, she's a big expert, and we had a great common friend in Bill Cousins. Terrific. Good to see you. Good to see you, Matt.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. But did I send you invite? How did you get the invite?
How did I get the invite? It's on my university email. No, my regular email, because I've attended previous meetings.
Okay. ऋतुल भाई આવી ગયા છો?
Kirti ji, we are recording and we can start.
Okay, we started now?
Yes.
I think we start now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes,
Please. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kimya. Then we start. Welcome to the 99th webinar of INHAF's webinar series on Rethinking City. This webinar, as you know, is titled Public Transport and BRTS in Our Cities and Role of the Bus, our familiar bus in that system. I'm really glad that so many of you, so many of the busy people have made time for this meeting at a very short notice. We thank them for their time, interest, and contribution. As it has been clarified in the poster and the invite, this is not a webinar for a few invited panel members to share their views. This is a public meeting, as public meetings go, and we have invited all concerned citizens to attend, listen, and speak. Yes, you will have a chance to speak if you so desire. So it's open for everyone. That's the format of this meeting. I am here to share with you the context of this particular meeting and also the context of the webinar series we have been running for close to 3 years. Let me first tell you two main reasons why this meeting at this juncture on BRTS and public transport. One, INHAF and its partners, the Urban Lab in Ahmedabad and Sustainability Initiative and Nagrik Chetna Manch in Pune, have been studying working of BRTS in these two cities for the past few years. INHAF has recently published those two reports through public events, both in Ahmedabad and Pune. These are bottom-up studies looking at the system and the service from the viewpoint of the users and other citizens. If time permits, I will share some of our findings. That work, however, has made us extra sensitive to stakeholders, not only to BRTS and the bus system, but also to the overall context of public transport in our cities. The second reason that prompted and gave us topicality to the meeting is what happened on 6th of this month in Pune. The PMC dismantled Pune-Nagar corridor of the BRTS system. Citizen and civil society organization reacted promptly for and against. We at INHAF, who received phone calls from citizens in Ahmedabad, felt that whatever the merit of the case and whatever the circumstances, that act of demolition gave wrong signals, not only to Pune city and its citizens, whether using the service or not, but also to other cities where BRTS is running and where BRTS is being planned. There is little public debate on the public transport, the lifeline of our cities, and a key element of city infrastructure if we want our cities to be efficient, productive, mobile, healthy, people-friendly, environmentally safe, and sustainable. The recent COP28 in Dubai has given scary signals if we do not equip our city to meet the climate challenge properly. We thought this to be a good opportunity to discuss not so much the incidents, but public transport in our cities, and within that, the role of BRTS and the bus. BRT system is under stress and scanner in Pune, Ahmedabad, and other cities, with the declining fortune as a running thread, and we thought a dialogue on this subject is essential. So that is the reason why we have meeting now. The second matter that I want to share with you is why we are doing this webinar series, especially as these are 99th and the 100th webinar of INHAF's series on Rethinking City. 100 webinars is a milestone under which we've addressed something like 40 urban themes and sub-themes, and had the privilege of hosting some 500 professionals, experts, subject specialists, and officials from across the world to discuss multiple urban issues. It has been a remarkable learning experience for us, both in terms of organizing as well understanding the depth and the complexity of the subject called the urban challenge. Let me tell you briefly why we are doing this and what we hope to achieve. Now, this webinar series has five major assumptions. First, despite being engines of growth and centers of culture, technology, knowledge, and global attention and investment, our cities are not in pink of health, be that small or big, industrial or commercial, district town or state capital. They are not in pink of health. And be that environment or water or governance or planning or slums or housing or rivers, whichever is the issue, they are saddled with major challenges. This is the first consideration. Second consideration is the cities as they are and the way they are growing and developing do not look like meeting the challenge of unprecedented urbanization India is witnessing. It neither looks like providing safe and healthy quality of life living to 870 million people who will be there in our cities in 27 more years, almost double of today, nor do they look like delivering 7 to 8% growth the country expects to get get rid of poverty, and emerge as an economic power. The third reason, the government effort alone is not adequate to ensure healthy, livable, productive, inclusive, and sustainable cities. Fourth, the wider society, and this is very important, this is what makes us do it. The wider society, the human capital outside the government system has required skills, knowledge, experience, and even motivation to contribute meaningfully and search for alternative approaches and new solutions. And the fifth reason is there is an emergency. We do not have much time. We've got to move very, very fast. So this webinar series that we are running for the last 3 years is part of a wider national societal effort aimed to bringing in not only fresh ideas and new perspectives, but also new voices and a new collectivism, new togetherness, new partnerships, and new energy in articulating the need for and ways to rethinking our cities, both redefining the urban challenge and finding more effective ways to addressing it. It is taking the urban challenge to people, and it is preparing people to engage and contribute. So these are the kind of perspectives and reasons why we have running this webinar series for last 3 years. Please don't ask me how much have we succeeded. All I can say is this: we think more work is required, better work is required, more imaginative efforts required. And we already have committed ourselves to 50 more webinars as we come to 100. So with that sort of a longish introduction, both to these meetings as well as the webinar series, I hand over to Pranjali Ji to conduct today's webinar. And Pranjali Ji, thank you very much. Thank you all members of the panel who are here, and sorry, I think someone walked in. Sorry. So thank you very much for everyone to be here. We look forward to your participation and contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirti Bhai. And congratulations for this 99th webinar, and 100th one will be on BRT. Without spending time, I'll quickly start my presentation. And I'll also explain, like, I mean, as he mentioned, that this is not like a webinar, this is more like a roundtable, we can call online roundtable. And the sequence that we will prefer is after me, Swamy sir will have a small presentation on learnings that he has from various Indian cities. Then Qaniz ji will talk about Pune BRT and other BRT aspects. Then architect Desai sir, Jha sir, Dr. Siddharth Dhende, who is a well-known corporator in Pune city. Mangesh Kolapkar, he is from media and is the chief reporter in Sakar Media Group. Vijay Anadkat, he has experience of working on several BRTs, especially in small cities. Then Kirti Bhai, and followed by Ranjit. This is a general sequence, and of course, अगर किसी को हिंदी में बात करनी है तो भी कर सकते हैं. I'm sorry, some of you don't understand Hindi, but like, you know, just to make this platform work like a round table, अगर आपको हिंदी में भी बात करनी है तो भी पैनलिस्ट बात जरूर कर सकते हैं. मैं मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन शेयर करती हूँ. Is it visible?
Yes, the
Yes.
presentation is visible.
Yes.
Okay. Is it on full screen? I hope it is on full screen.
Can you go on presentation mode?
Oh, it is not going.
No.
Okay. Can you? It's okay now?
Yes. Good.
Okay. Okay. So today I'll not talk about features of BRT, what BRT needs and what not, because I think most of us, most of the participants know what it needs to have a good BRT system. We have a couple of cities who have demonstrated good BRT systems. We had Pune also. At one point of time, they were the first city to start BRT in on a very important road in the city. Pimpri-Chinchwad we have. But let us see what has happened today. And as Kirtibhai mentioned that very recently, there was a very bad news from for the BRT supporters. So I'll just quickly take you through this journey of BRT in Pune. So why it started? So basically we need to understand this basic, that it started with the comprehensive mobility plan of Pune, which sets up a very ambitious goal that we need people moving on walk, bus and cycle, and for which we need BRT. As you can see, if you see, this was the baseline year of 2007. And if it was clearly mentioning that if we don't do anything and the public transportation degrades, then this share of public transport and paratransit will definitely decrease. And we are really somewhere here where we can see that it is decreasing. It also mentioned that if we just augment a couple of buses and add more buses to PMPML, the situation may improve, but not drastically. People will be still on private vehicles, and those who live in Pune or have visited Pune city can definitely imagine the way of like the streets are full with private vehicles. So we can see a lot of private vehicles on the street. If we do the BRT and under this comprehensive mobility plan, it says that 100 kilometers in Pune, and of course PCMC had their separate comprehensive mobility plan, but 45 kilometers in Pimpri-Chinchwad. And in PMCs, in Pune's comprehensive mobility plan, it clearly mentions that if we do BRT, we can achieve substantial, like it can really jump from 28% to 64%. And this is the reason Pune adopted BRT. And it also mentions that even if we add metro, the share of metro will not be as great as BRT, just because metro will be on a couple of corridors. The BRT buses will go on many other states. In Pune, Pune adopted hybrid BRT, where bus leaves the corridor and goes in the residential or school areas in the city, so which means it has got a lot of flexibility. And this is the reason Pune city adopted BRT first place. But what has happened? So 100 kilometer in Pune and 45 in PCMC that was approved. You can see a lot of important streets, major corridors in the city occupied with proposed BRT, out of which by 2022, let's say from 2007, they built pilot corridors, then they augmented just 2 more corridors they built. This is Nagar Road and one more in Vishrantwadi Road. Whereas Pimpri-Chinchwad completed their network, even today it is working fine. They keep on continuing, like, they keep on building a couple of other road infrastructure on the same corridor, but they again retain the BRT. But here in Pune, what is happening is, out of this 100 kilometers, hardly 20 to 25 kilometers came into picture. When it was inaugurated, pilot BRT, in 2007, people were really happy, especially passengers were happy because their journey time reduced. After that, Sangamwadi Road was opened in 2015. It also received a lot of good response. It has got level boarding, dedicated BRT corridor. And when we took a couple of surveys with the PMPML, with the help from PMPML, people were happy with the BRT stations. Their waiting time reduced because the bus used to come faster than the earlier, or maybe in the absence of the BRT corridor, dedicated corridor, they couldn't get that reliability. So they were really happy. The boarding, alighting definitely improved because of the level boarding. Passenger journey time reduced from 5 minutes to 12 minutes. Of course, 12 minutes was in PCMC because those were long journey people. And average bus speed also increased by 7 kilometers per hour. So these were very positive reactions from the bus user, from the PMPML as well. And it was working, and it was really working well for passengers. They were happy. There was some more shift also observed, especially on the long routes, where people said that, yes, we shifted from two-wheeler to BRT just because now the journey is faster and smoother. Unbelievable, but yes, it happened on long routes. And the ridership of BRT routes was increasing from 2015 to 2019. Still, what happened? Very recently, one of the roads, Solapur Road, it got kind of a slow poison, and then now there is nothing left on as a BRT left on Hadapsar Road. One more road, PMC said that yes, we are redoing the pavement for entire motor vehicle lane and BRT lane. They removed the segregation, but still the segregation is not there. Buses are not using the BRT station. They are still using the left side wherever like the footpath area is there. And very recently, in this month only, they removed this Nagar Road BRT corridor. So now, from the ambition of having 100 kilometers, they just built 25 kilometers. And today, what we have is just one of the corridors, Sapara Road, which is running north-south around 5 to 6 kilometers, and maybe 4 kilometers of Vishnantwadi Road. Let's say 9 to 10 kilometers is what we have today. We can see this is a condition of Solapur Road. They suddenly removed this segregation and no one knew, like these passengers didn't know what to do now. Recently, Nagar Road experience. So what we have is just like 2 corridors. So what's next? Here, like as all of us have worked in this sector or have some experience working with the government on the BRT, maybe with the passengers as well, or maybe some of you are BRTS passengers. So we need to discuss what's next. What is our goal? What is our city's goal? How we can still achieve our comprehensive mobility plan, and what we need to undo to reach there. I'm stopping here. I have lots of questions for our esteemed panelists. I'm handing it over to Swamy sir. Let's have all the presentations and then we'll go to the second round of questions, very selected questions. Okay, I'm stopping my screen. Over to you, Swamy sir.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We have been associated with 4 cities in terms of public transport: Ahmedabad, Surat, Hubli, Dharwad, and Indore. And the first effort in Ahmedabad for BRT was done much before. However, its serious effort started in 2005. And then in 2013-14, we started discussing Surat BRT. And then we moved on to Hubli Dharwad BRT. And then there's a modification for Indore. Yeah? Since 2005 and now, a lot of things, a lot of water has flown, a lot of things have changed. Our thinking has also moved forward. When we began, there was this confusion whether we are building BRT as an alternative to metro or we are building BRT to provide a better bus system. Yeah. In Ahmedabad, the first thing what we used as a tagline was buses, more buses, better buses. I think that was a tagline. And subsequently, those things improved there. While the plan in Ahmedabad, okay, that's the way. And then there are a lot of lessons which have happened there. I'll use the slides for a bit and then I'll come back again. I think all of us know, and Kirti in some ways was saying, cities function better when cities' public transport systems are people-centric and work efficiently. I think that's the key theme which we're looking at. And no doubt, there are several rapid transit modes, and regular city bus is something which is also there. Given this modes available today, there is a lot of focus at the national government towards metro rail. There are several cities which have implemented metro rail. Some of them compete with BRT systems, some of them do not compete with, in fact, complement. Like Ahmedabad and Surat, where the systems were envisaged to be part of the integrated public transport system, and therefore they compete, they overlap only in small stretches and not everywhere. I think that's an important thing there. Ahmedabad also, both Surat and Ahmedabad, what we did was the ridership was not there, public transport was not adequate, and therefore the effort was to make buses better, and therefore we in fact are more frequent. Therefore, both in Ahmedabad and Surat, we used midi buses and not large buses. I think that's a distinction from the Latin American cities BRT and Ahmedabad BRT. In of course, what I think we did not do well when we were looking at Ahmedabad BRT was to take into consideration the complete journey part of it. What was done was to design BRT, and then subsequently efforts to integrate other modes was to have happened. But I don't think that happened. That has not happened even today, in fact. Yeah, and that's where the problems are with regard to BRT there. And if you look at the effort which was envisaged as part of Ahmedabad, but actually it materialized in Surat, where we have physical integration, infrastructure integration, fare integration, ITS integration, and institutional integration. All of that has happened in Surat, and that's an interesting part. And if you see the network here, that's Surat. It's about 55 lakh people there. Yeah, there's no bus system there operating in the city. And the BRT was thought of in 2014, and it got extended till now. And today we operate about 108 kilometers, the 13 routes, 300 buses, and about 1.5 lakh ridership. But what is interesting is then we added a city bus there, and city bus enters BRT network at particular stations, and it moves out subsequently. And therefore, they do not compete, but then they complement and enable users to interchange at these stations. And there are several interchange stations which have been identified there. Subsequently, there is this green line, which is also called as HMC network, that's around the city. That's a mix of BRT and what you call the city bus without any segregation. And that also is connected. Therefore, today in Surat, a passenger can board with one ticket at any city bus stop, change to city bus stop without buying a second ticket. It's also possible to board BRT at the same physical integrated space, and so also on HMC. And therefore, you have this option of moving from one system to another. I think that's the only city where fare integration, institutional integration, physical integration, ITS information, of course, is critical there. And that's working very well there. But what is alarming is that then when it all started, COVID happened and things got held up there more in terms of the passenger ridership. And passenger ridership has not gone beyond 2.5 lakhs. It was approaching 3 pre-COVID. Now we have recovered only up to 2.5. What is additional that we need to do to bring more passengers on board is the question. It's when you do something new, something happens, but subsequently what happens there? I think that's a critical part to continuously attract people. And now we also have a metro system which will also be integrated. That is the orange line, what you have, the 71 kilometers. Currently under construction, but again, it is physically integrated, and we hope that institutional integration and fare integration will also happen. These are two different kinds of buses. The red bus is city bus, blue bus is BRT. No, red bus is BRT and blue bus is city bus. And all three systems work well there. What is interesting is there are shelters in the median, there are shelters on the side. Okay, all the shelters, most of the shelters are in the median, not in the curbside. With this kind of experience, what Ahmedabad had done was to build BRT network. That's a green network, what is shown there. Blue is our city bus. And then you have the red metro is now operational east, west, and north, south, which will get extended up to Gandhinagar. Now, in fact, Surat has about 108 kilometers, longest BRT network in the country. It's also important that first 30 kilometers was supported by Government of India. The rest of it, the city government with its own funds has developed. I think that's probably only city which has developed BRT network with its own funds there. They have about 6 or 7 depots, all the infrastructure very well structured. Okay. And then we have this Ahmedabad, the commissioner from Surat got transferred to Ahmedabad. We have been talking about integration, but he had seen what, and he was led the change in Surat. And therefore, when he came in, he started looking at how do we integrate. And right now, at least the fare structure has been made common between city bus and the BRT. And then they're working on route by route. Okay, how do we bring in city bus into BRT network and also make it exit so that the people traveling between city bus, traveling through and through, instead of only using city bus, they can interchange at certain places. I think route by route integration and interchange terminals and all of that is being worked on. I think its work is well in progress. Very soon we will have a system where both city bus and the BRT will operate. But then again, further to that, there is an effort to integrate with the metro system. There are technology issues there. Metro is on a closed system, whereas the BRT is a different kind of a technology as far as fare integration is concerned. And that's where the issues are. Those are being discussed right now. The third one, which is interesting again, probably in terms of ridership, today, if you really ask me, and also in terms of the capacity, in terms of the design, probably the best BRT system is Hubli-Dharwad BRT, just about 22 kilometers, which has both express as well as ordinary bus service, with about 90 buses, okay, plying on this corridor between these two cities. They carry about 1 lakh people a day, which is much more than many metro systems in the country. I think that is what makes the system unique. There were efforts to like introduce a monorail or a metro rail. Those things keep on coming up as proposals. But I think people in the government and the people of the city seems to like this. What is also important is this ridership, what I'm saying, is despite the fact that Karnataka has a free bus for women, but not in BRT. And therefore, the ridership has not gone down despite the city bus operating in the city and also in some way parallel. People have not moved to those city buses despite it being free. I think that's an important point there. The reliability of the city bus is what makes it more attractive. Now, they're also working on plans to integrate physically and fare-wise with the city buses across. I think that's where we are as far as this is concerned. But then what is interesting and important for us to know is that if you look at the globally, most Western cities, Western countries have about 3 to 4 meters per capita road space, whereas in our cities, it is less than a meter per capita. And then if you look at Ahmedabad, we had about 23 cars per 1,000 people in 2012. And last year, when we did the survey, we have 54. And therefore, population increased by 1.3 times, cars increased by 3.5 times. And therefore, do we really have space for buses, cars, and two-wheelers? Will buses have any space for it to move around in future? Therefore, the idea, what we are trying to say, what we are working with the city of Ahmedabad is that, okay, it's not just BRT or a bus system. You work on a bus priority citywide and try and make your streets transit ready. I think the problem of existing mixed traffic bus is that it has to take on the side, obstruct the traffic, and it also gets obstructed because it has stop for passengers. Your bus stops are on the side. Today, whether it's Pune, whether it's Ahmedabad, whether it's Surat, every day it's the same. When you have the curbside bus stops, you don't know where the bus will stop, and therefore passengers will have to run behind the bus. Therefore, driver also would not know where to stop because all the space in front of the parking area is having some obstructions, either parking or something else. And therefore, this problem of not knowing where to stop the bus or where to catch the bus will get resolved if you move to the median bus stations, with or without segregation. Ahmedabad has about 3.5–4 kilometers of network now, which has been designed with only median bus stops and not segregation, because the traffic there is not so much today. Therefore, it's like a transit ready street, and you can bring in the segregation as and when it is necessary, because when the traffic builds up, this can become a kind of one type of city bus movement where you have right side doors. All the passengers will board at the bus station. You can have external ticketing. And then by doing that, bringing the bus in the middle, it will also have a priority. It will move faster because it need not have to negotiate with the mixed lanes on the side. I think this is what is an experiment which is working well in that 4 kilometer. We are trying to suggest the city to adopt this model at a wider scale, so that all the strategic network, the big roads, will have this median bus stations and not necessarily segregated bus lanes today, but then it can happen over a period of time depending on the requirement. This is an idea which we are propagating right now. There are several ways that you can do, even in smaller roads, 18-meter roads, bus priority is possible. And therefore, what we are arguing is that we should not be just talking about BRT or city bus. We need to talk about integrated bus system where buses have priority on street in some way, with or without segregation. That's an argument. That's where I will end. Thank you very much, Kirti, for this opportunity. Yeah, the young man in the whole entire webinar group is probably Kirti. Okay, remain young always. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Rather than moving to the questions, I will request Qaniz ji to start her presentation, or if she doesn't have any presentation, she can just speak about. Sir, can you just stop sharing? Yeah, okay.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Qaniz ji, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, but I wasn't told that I had to prepare a presentation. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, that was mandatory. Yeah.
I will just speak. So let me begin by saying that thank you, Kirti ji, for inviting me and the rest of the INHAF team. The thing is, I am not an expert, so let me claim very blatantly, but I am part of the aggrieved public which has faced all the problems, and I will take this as an example of Nagar Road 7 kilometers BRT, which started in 2012. The work started. My opinions or whatever I say is on factually on about 1,000 pages received through RTI from state, center, and PMC. So everything I say is factually based. So yes, definitely public transport must exist, but it can be curbside. I don't see why it should be the median, because Nagar Road from end to end has 15 spots not acquired yet as per the DP 1987. So that makes a lot of spots, although the median was chosen for BRT, the others were suffering. Now you cannot deny or wish away the rest of the vehicles. I mean, it's not that BRT has come in the center, so everybody jumps onto the BRT. That's not possible. So yes, the demolishing has been a waste of public money, I admit, but not at the cost of the fatalities or the number of accidents which have taken place, which accelerated this. But I don't see anybody bringing to notice the Sangamwadi corridor was also demolished. There were only 2 half bus shelters. I don't know what that means. One side boarding, the other side. And the railings was 2 kilometers without the bus shelter being in the middle, which was completely useless. People used to make an entry, the other vehicles used to make an entry, and that's where the accidents would happen. Same thing on Nagar Road. They were not able to control the entry of the private vehicles or so-called whatever other vehicles into the BRT bus lanes. So with the result, rapidity went for a toss because you had 11 bus shelters and you had 7 signaling gaps. So there was absolutely no rapidity achieved. So I'm bringing everybody down to ground level reality. This is what has been happening on Nagar Road. And the PMC, I was opposing it from 2012, but nobody listened. So I said, okay, they're going to do it in any case. So let me join them and give them knowledge on what they're doing wrong. That also proved absolutely zero. Then again, nobody objected. 2018, Metro came across very merrily and demolished 3 bus shelters. Nobody objected. They closed down almost half the BRT. They shut it down because of metro work. They were storing garbage, parking their vehicles. Nobody objected. So PMC, before PMC demolished it, Metro had condemned half the BRT on Nagar Road. So there was actually nothing functioning. The ones which are functioning was wide open. There was no demarcation in the middle, which means private vehicles, two-wheelers were straying in and coming into confrontation for the opposing, the vehicles which are traveling in the opposite directions. That's where the accidents happen. Now, accident figures are there from the police, traffic police, and there are horrendous figures. Then PMC never kept up to the agreement they made at the HQ BRT meeting held on 18th August 2011. In 2010, OSD, he was SK Lohia, declared that Pune will have a hybrid system. Means, portion, some you see it, some you don't. So it was never essentially a BRT in the true sense. The global concepts were never followed. And Pranjali, you were with ITDP. ITDP 2007 was not followed. IRC global guidelines was not followed. The World, Bank guidelines were not followed. Also, when I asked for through the RTI that I want the DPR, I was given one strange document. This is all RTI, PMC Design and Project Management Services System Specification Report. There was no DPR. How can you make such a major project without a DPR in place? The pilot project was another thing. Now, I'm making it shorter because everybody has been through this. On 15th November 2011, Maharashtra Estimate Committee report on BRT pilot project sternly pulled up PMC and stated that unless safety measures were in control, no further BRT corridors must be constructed. I was in I was in consistent communication with Pinaki Mishra, who was the chairman standing committee of Ministry of Urban Development in Delhi. And after getting a lot of hard facts from me, he took up this topic in Parliament. And the report of 2014-15 of which was taken up by Lok Sabha and ratified by the Rajya Sabha, the pages 56 and 57 were very, very telling. And it is important that I quote a few lines. Instead, it appears, this is as part of the report, instead it appears that the administration feels that it has been saddled with a fait accompli by way of BRT proposal and does not know how to disengage because of loss of faith. The committee therefore strongly recommends that any proposal in cities should be enforced with greatest caution and only after detailed planning and consideration, keeping in view public opinion of the commuters who are the main stakeholders in the system. The committee is also of the firm opinion that BRT for Pune and PCMC, which is still in the planning stage, this is remember 2014-15, must be immediately put on hold. And a further course of action must be taken after a detailed consultation with the main stakeholders such as the commuters of the city. Then after I made a lot of noise, Bombay IIT was called in to conduct an RSA On 31st of Jan 2015, it gave the report with about odd 70 odd adverse comments, which were never rectified by PMC. So when it was started, it never ever followed the global concept, at least the minimum basic ITMS, closing automated doors. I even took them to this college in Kothurud, the BNCA College of Architecture, and they had prepared a prototype which would be RFID activated gates on the BRT so as to prevent entry, because the guards, poor guards, were human beings. They are on salary. Anybody got aggressive that you better let me in or I'll hammer you up, he let them in. So PMC said, I don't have money. We don't have money. Although they had 32 lakhs for each bus shelter on Nagar Road. 32 lakhs was spent. Whereas PCMC spent half the amount, which were more this thing. There were no glass doors which would be broken by miscreants. There was no well, I can't even tell you the things I've been through: rape, murder, everything inside the BRT bus shelters. Okay, now when they started the BRT, there was no public outreach, because this is a gaon essentially. You have Ramwadi, you have Chandan Nagar, you have Vadgaon Shiri. All these people couldn't understand why you're blocking out the center of our road. So there was not. So there was a lot of aggression and stone throwing and this. So I would be called at night, go and rescue this. I'm a citizen, running to rescue these people, to explain that why are you attacking the labor? They are just doing a job. All these things have never been removed by my mind. Okay, now one more thing. Prasanna Desai made the mapping. PMC has made a lot of flaws in the mapping to execute the mapping. At Hyatt on Nagar Road, the median swings to one side. On one side you have 7 lanes, the other side you have 3 lanes, without any rhyme or reason. So, PMC's attention was also not focused on how to implement this. They was just said JNNURM के through मिलता है पैसा, आने दो, किधर भी use कर लेंगे, जिधर essential part है वो नहीं करने का. There were no safe pedestrian crossings for the passengers, for the commuters to reach the median. Absolutely nothing was done. There was no signaling system. So if you have 11 bus shelters, you have 7 gaps, how do you expect the commuters to jump into the middle? They have to then dart across, keeping their lives on their palms, saying, okay, if I cross and I'm alive, I'm safe. So there was a lot of negativity existing, and because the public was this thing, they were blatantly intruding into the BRT lanes. There was absolutely nothing. So another point where BRT did not achieve rapidity. So they did employ, as I said, guards, but they were of no use. So the traffic figures from 2014, traffic police has given these figures. Accident fatal, deaths fatal, which are fatal, 21 plus 18, which were 21, which was instantaneous, 18, which happened when they were taken to the hospital, and there were minor accidents, 16. This was inside the BRT corridor. Along the BRT corridor, again from 2014, deaths were 51 instantaneous, 72 were after they were taken to hospital, minor deaths 80, minor accidents 82. Now the last portion, if not BRT, what should PMC? And I don't see why we're only concentrating on PMC. What about traffic police? They have to be also held responsible, no, for implementing their enforcement agency. So yes, I admit, as I said before, bus public transport is extremely necessary. Climate change, this, that, everything. But it must be on a service. You have to upgrade the service. The state must give a non-refundable loan in Pune city, only left side, conventional, because it's a very crowded city and it's getting more crowded. And you can take the RTO figures of how many more vehicles, private vehicles have been added in these last 10 years. It is a misconception that PMC, yeah, there's a lot of ideas floating that PMPML will make it, because now metro is coming, half the portion is on top of the BRT lanes. So it will become a feeder system. When you've demolished the shelters, where is the feeder system? Okay, signaling system has to be given priority. You have to make BRT is essential on, say, the ring road, which is the last mile connectivity, and this is where we should concentrate on. In Pune city, which is this the left side conventional curb bus system goes, because that is what is functional just now. Even on Nagar Road, PMPML makes a noise, but they've already put up the signboards on the left side long ago, before the demolishing took place. And the site of the BRT, I mean, if I had shown, I would have got the slides to show you the condition of the bus shelters. They are broken, they're decrepit. It feels as if the Third World War has just ended on Nagar Road. This is the condition of the BRT. So yes, I support what PMC did, and I know I'm not going to be popular, but that's it. I'm like that. I don't need to be popular. I have my opinion, I will say it. Thank you.
Thank you, Qaniz Ji. I think we are having two very different views. Swamy sir is saying that, supporting median stations and hybrid BRT, whereas Qaniz's view is not to have hybrid system. It should be trunk and feeder and with curbside, etc., etc. Rather than going into that, maybe I'll not comment on that, but I'll ask or request Desai sir. He's an urban designer, and to share his experience on designing the streets to promote public transport or walking, because walking is and cycling is also feeder to the good BRT system. So requesting him, if he has any slides to show, fine. I mean, it's not mandatory, but he can directly jump on the views of how good street design can ensure that everyone gets, all street users get priorities, and safety is also a key in this, because Qaniz ma'am mentioned that Nagar Road BRT could have been better if there was a lot of safety, but it was not there. Over to you, sir. Desai sir. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Kirti ji, for inviting, and thank you, Pranjali, for the introduction. And I think we'll straight away come to the point. So any city needs a transportation system, and I think all of us are in agreement to it. Smaller city, medium size, and large size. There are no two opinions that any system that we use has to be safe and absolutely safe. There is no compromise on safety. Having said that, any public transportation system, what is the common sense of the people, that what kind of a system do they need? First, they need is dependable. If I can reach from point A to point B safely first and within a stipulated time. So this is the time that on which I can travel. So it will take me 15 minutes, it will take me 20 minutes, it will take me 30 minutes. If I can time it, that is the best public transport, whichever it may be, whether bus or whether metro. Because we are also talking simultaneously a bit on metro. Metro, we are able to time it because it has a dedicated corridor and there are zero interruptions in the metro. And to reach the metro, obviously there are many other ways to reach the metro. We also know that metro cannot cover the whole city, and particularly for smaller and medium cities, it is a very expensive system. Having said that, and a bus system is much economical, 10 CR per kilometer to 20 CR per kilometer, whereas metro could be 300, 400 CR per kilometer. And we are not rich corporations and we are not rich cities. Having said that, I also remember one of the very eminent politicians recently mentioning that bus system should be strengthened and we should be able to have the timing of bus system on our, what you call, mobile, to know that when the bus is coming. Having said that, how will the bus reach on time from point A to point B if it is amongst the traffic? It is amongst the car, irrespective of, if at all, with due respect to what Qaniz ji is saying, on the curb side. And the curbside, there will be all cars. So the bus will be also at the edge traveling amongst the car. Until and unless you create a curbside lane, which is painted, which is only for the buses, and nobody will come into that curbside lane. Because this is a very critical understanding that one has to get into if we need to have the bus at the curb. And I'm sure Shivanand Swamy will have also something to add on to it. And that is not possible because in any case, private vehicles move everywhere. Having said that, this central system comes in where you have a corridor which is given to the buses so that the buses can travel in that without any hindrance. Now let us come to this second point of crossing, safe crossings, whether BRT or whether no BRT. And I wish I had a slide for this. We need to cross the road. Let us take Nagar Road for example, though this is not the best example. If I'm at Aga Khan Palace and I'm going towards the mall on the other side, which is, or the hotel, I'm going on the left-hand side. In the evening, I have to take the bus from the opposite side. I have to cross the road. Then I come back to Aga Khan Palace. I again have to cross the road. So I have to cross the roads both ways. And crossing needs to be 100% safe. And in any bus system or BRTS system, the crossing is at the junction. So the junctions need to be designed and they have to be safe, whether BRT or no BRT. And safe crossing, when the bus system comes in the center, you are crossing half at a given time. So you cross half at the red light and get into the BRTS system. So that safety is ensured until and unless the junctions are not properly designed and properly executed. The third thing is public perception about BRT. The public perception, unfortunately, in PM Pune and all throughout its execution has been the corridor is going empty. And here is an empty corridor where we don't see buses. Now, Pune's bus strength is, and I think Ranjit is going to come in the end and talk about, currently we have 2,000, 2,500 buses, out of which X are functional. We need 4,000 to 5,000 buses, which are not coming through because state is not supporting. So the number of buses that are required is very high. And if we have these high buses and if we constantly see buses in the corridor, the people perception of that there is no bus in the corridor wouldn't have come up. Now we have lived with this perception that bus to dikhti hi nahi hai corridor mein, dekho khali ja raha, main apni gaadi hi dal deta iske beech mein. And the last one is implementation of letting the car and the two-wheeler and everybody get into the system. It's an implementation issue, it's not a design issue. So all these have added to this, whatever has happened today. But it still remains, if we want to depend upon bus must have a seamless corridor available so that it can reach on a time. Now come to the hybrid and closed system. So earlier on, it was a closed system. Ahmedabad started with a closed system, but Pune always adopted a hybrid. The reason for hybrid is exactly what Qaniz Ji is saying, that there is a curbside where the width of the road is less, where we cannot put a corridor dedicated in the center, but wider streets, you can put it in the corridor, and then it leaves the corridor and gets into the neighborhoods and reaches within 200 to 300 meters of your neighborhood. And that is what a bus system should be. It reaches closest to your house, and then people will choose. If you have a closed system, that means you have to change buses, and people don't like to change buses. So wherever possible, they are in the dedicated corridor, the speed is achieved. Where we cannot have a dedicated corridor, they come out and they come out onto the curbside station. So your buses have doors on both the sides if you need that kind of a system, and that's how it was adopted. But implementation, I will not go into it. Yes, there can be always implementation issues, but we have seen now 4 cities which have implemented. I'm sure they are also struggling at times, but there has to be ownership. And somewhere or other, the ownership on front of certain cities did not come through. And I also am in agreement that public outreach to explain to the people what this system is. So when one explains very simple manner without any data, that bus in the center really does not make you cross the road, or that becomes fatal. If you have junctions which are designed well and there is a red light, in fact, you come half the way. So this is possible. And You asked me today also, I believe that this is there, but number of buses have to increase. If the number of buses are not seen in the corridor, that is where I think the revolt set in. You don't see the buses in the corridor. Number of buses have to be there. There was also a thought right in the beginning, and which was also a way, see, we need to adapt to situations. So we have company buses, we have school buses. Now, do we allow company buses and the school buses and the ST buses into the corridor? This was also discussed in Pune. And if we take out these buses from the main MB lanes, we will relieve the load on the MB lanes so they can come into the center. Now, the only issue when these buses come into, the ST buses don't have to stop from stop to stop. So they will go run through. But the school buses or the company buses, if they also use the same bus stop, then what happens? But that is the kind of adjusted one could have done. School buses would have also moved faster, company buses would have moved faster, and you would have seen more buses and more movement. This was adopted on Satara Road. So the bus moved from the MB lane, which was for the cars, into the corridor. So you could see more movement of the buses there. Obviously, it adds to the hindrance that you cannot time the buses which are moving, the main PMPML buses. So I think one has to adopt and bring in confidence amongst the people that the corridor has eased traffic movement for MB lanes and we have shifted something. So I think these are all the trials which had happened, and some kind of ownership which would have been much, much stronger. I think it would have sustained, and today also it could. Coming in of metro on the same corridor as BRT is another discussion, and I don't think I would take it, but it has its duplication of two hybrid systems coming on the same corridor, which also led to what has happened at Nagar Road. But as a system of BRTS today also at a very economical cost, it is the system which can be adopted in a hybrid manner for any city in the country. And some of the sketches have been demonstrated by Dr. Shivanand Swamy, and they can always be looked into. And we don't have finances to have metro in each and every city, and we need public transport. The sizes of the buses can vary, the capacities can vary, but it has to run on time and it has to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, especially for explaining how the median station does not impact the crossing distance, etc. And also,
yes, Pranjali,
yeah, and also bringing up this issue of cost of BRT versus cost of metro. I remember a small example from Yichang, the Chinese city. When I was there, a common person, a guide was telling everyone that our city adopted BRT because we decided that we don't have money to build metro and we don't want to spend so much metro. So this has reached, I mean, in that city, it has reached to the citizens that why we are adopting metro. And she was saying that we are proud of our BRT system. So I think to this level, we need to reach where the people ask that, what we need is efficient public transport system and not demand just for the expensive toy sometimes, which doesn't have any ridership. Okay, stopping here and over to you, Jha sir. He has been played role of administrator. He has been on various committees as a chairperson. He has worked on parking policies and many other aspects of mobility. Over to you, sir. If you want to have any present anything, please share your screen. Otherwise, if you just want to speak, it's up to you.
No, ma'am, I don't have a presentation. Am I audible? Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have a prepared presentation, but I will speak on the topic that was given to me. But let me first begin by thanking Kirti Bhai for inviting me to participate and speak in this round table. I cannot resist saying that Kirti Bhai has been an icon for all of us who have been working in the urban field, and his indefatigable energy at the age of 80. He celebrated his 80th birthday last year. And his standout contribution to the country's complex urban field has been an inspiration to all of us. So Kirti Bhai, keep on this 3-year-old webinar going. Thank you.
81.
Now 81, right. The subject that you have allotted to me for this webinar is what policies do our cities need to implement sustainable transport projects and retain them. So I'm not going to speak about BRT in particular because this is a much wider subject. It talks about transport projects and the question of their sustainability. Now, while tackling this topic, I wish to examine a fundamental issue from the policy perspective, where transport stands and whose responsibility is it to provide public transport in cities? That's the question I ask myself. And what I'm going to say is going to be quite unconventional. So lest I be misunderstood, it is necessary to put on the table certain caveats. So let me start with those caveats. Number one, I'm a total supporter of public transport, and I'm convinced that the neglect of public transport in the initial decades after independence was a missed opportunity. And it had a whole lot of adverse implications on the country and as a whole, and on cities in particular. Number two, public transport for cities is not an option, but a necessity. Its absence negatively impacts a city's productivity, the quality of life of its citizens. It has positive contribution to city environment, to city equity, fuel savings and economic productivity. All these are well known. Broadly speaking, the thinking has been that all cities that are above 3 lakhs should have a bus transport system in operation. And those that have 10 lakhs should also have a rail-based public transport. Caveat number three is that no system that does not take into account local conditions is not likely to find roots in alien soil. Hence, before we adopt a system, it is necessary to examine the pros and cons of adopting a system, and particularly its implementability before it is thought fit to be adopted. City systems are very expensive, and experimentation without a proper appreciation of local conditions is likely to result in wasteful expenditure. So with these caveats, I want to come to the question of public transport in cities. Here, I find a tendency to believe that this is the responsibility of the urban local bodies, the ULBs. Now, that took me to an examination of what is there in our books. And I will, in this regard, try and put the following points before my viewers. Number one, in the constitutional scheme of things, road transport has been a state subject. While it is currently governed by the Motor Vehicles Act and Central Motor Vehicle Rules, state governments have their own legal frameworks, and these are applicable in the state. There are lately reports that the center is planning overhaul of the regime by bringing in the Road Transport and Safety Bill, which will override the Motor Vehicles Act. And this new law will allow the center to prevail over state governments in case of a dispute. The Road Transport and Safety Bill is likely to have a section which says that the union government should take road transport under its control in case of such a center state situation. So this is something which is in the offing, and we will have to wait finally what happens in regard to this. If it really comes through, then there's going to be another battle between the center and the states. And if the law is enacted, that the center would be in a position to dictate to states what should be done in regard to road transport. Number two, for cities, we keep on going back to the 74th Constitutional Amendment. So we need to go to Schedule 12 of the Indian Constitution. Now, this schedule was listed in the Constitution, and the schedule listed 18 municipal functions that the states were exhorted to adopt for the cities. Now, if you read, I have the Schedule 12 before me. It has 18 functions. Nowhere does it mention public transport as a function of the city. So that's the constitutional provision. The last one says public facilities, including parking lots, street lighting, bus stops, and public facilities, but nothing about public transport. So that's number 2. Number 3, if we go to the statutory position of municipal laws, then it would be appropriate to consider one of the oldest municipal laws in the country, on which many states base their statutes, and that's the Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act 1888. Now, it has 2 lists. One is an obligatory list that the ULBs are mandated to perform, and a set of discretionary duties. So these are the 2 lists. Now, there is no mention of public transport from A to T, that is 20 functions. None of those functions speak about public transport for ULBs. Now, in the discretionary duties, there is a mention of the construction, purchase, organization, maintenance, extension, and management of tramways or mechanical propelled facilities for the conveyances of the public. Now, it is probably based on this provision that in the Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act and several other acts, chapter was introduced. In Mumbai, it is chapter 16A from sections 460A to 460 PPP. And this then created the organization of the BEST, which included bus transport. So even in Pune, the Provincial Municipal Corporation Act has an organization which deals with bus transport. Number 4, even if we for a moment assume that cities can run a bus service, what needs to be considered is that our ULBs are some of the most financially fragile, and Kirtibhai mentioned that in his opening remarks. And these are some of the most fragile cities as far as finances go in the entire world. We don't compare anywhere close to the developed world in any case. Now, whatever strength ULBs had was taken away during this decade by 2 pieces of central legislation. One was the RFCT-LARR, the new right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, and Resettlement Act 2013. And I found the impact of this when I was doing the development plan and the master plan of Mumbai. The total cost for implementation of the development plan in 20 years on land acquisition was 1,14,000 crores, a sum that the Municipal Corporation of Mumbai, which is a rich corporation, would not be able to afford in 60 years. So this is what the RFCT-LARR did to the question of land acquisition. And then came the GST, which more or less subsumed everything that the municipal bodies had. And ULBs were essentially left with property tax as the only substantial tax which to perform their duties. Now, since globally property tax does not take care of more than 25 to 30% of municipal expenditures, and since public transport in cities, because of the kind of fare box that we have, is generally a losing proposition, to my mind, it is highly unfair to ask cities to undertake this responsibility simply because they don't have the money. And if you don't have the money, you will not be able to run an efficient public transport. One of the problems which Mr. Desai, Prasanna Desai just mentioned was that you need to have more buses. And one of the reasons why Pune Municipal Corporation or PMPML was not able to provide more buses, because once the bus gifts from Government of India under JNNURM ceased, there was no money to add to the bus fleet. And therefore, from the data that I collected, the average in India is about 1.2 buses per 1,000, whereas for Pune, it is about 0.3 per 1,000. So if you don't run buses on a BRT, the whole concept of BRT collapses there itself. So in conclusion, what needs to be stressed is that we are currently staring at a situation where ULBs run the risk of becoming more and more dysfunctional and not even in a position to take care of their normal mandatory functions, such as solid waste management. and that must take precedence over all other functions. So as Aristotle said, we need to live before we live well. So municipal corporations have to survive before they start spreading their wings and taking on more responsibility that they cannot handle. And I would say public transport is one of those, because it just doesn't have the financial sinews to take that up. I have in my reasoning not mentioned several other weaknesses which Kirti Bhai mentioned, and these are there in the ULBs in terms of their capacity, a very centralized system of governance, political interference, and all those things that come with a fractured kind of governance. I think we can begin talking about ULBs as a performing institution capable of handling public transport if the backlog of major governance and financial reforms pending for decades is brought to fruition. Till then, the situation is going to be very difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sharing all the constitutional provisions, rather no provisions or statutory and discrimination duties. And coming to your point on the number of buses, why it is less in Pune, I think there is some gap between the expectations or the ambitions or maybe the goals set up in comprehensive mobility plan versus actual expenditure, because Pune and Pimpri-Chinchwad both have almost 1,000 crore rupees of transport budget only. So I don't think they have lack of funds, but maybe lack of will, we can say. Anyway, we can
dispute that and in the round of questions.
Yeah. Since we are talking about political will and people representation, we have Dr. Siddharth Dhende, sir. Dhende, sir, can you please switch on your mic?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. So as a representative of citizens of Pune, please share your views on the topic. Yeah.
First of all, thanks a lot, madam, for inviting me in this particular talk. I'm very much impressed with all the speakers who have given their views about the public transport system and especially in Pune. Now, I just want to highlight few things. One is BRT, whether it was profitable, whether it was technically sound, whether it was technically perfect, whether we have alternative transport system, or whether we are having lack of fund and everything. The only thing which I as a public representative want to share is, in Pune, nearly 42% of the persons they are living in the population is living in the slum. And PMPL or BRT was not using, only these particular peoples are not using the bus system. Every person is using the bus system. And if you see the Nagar Road BRT and the data from the PMPL itself, nearly 1 lakh commuters were taking this advantage of transportation through BRT. Now, what was the reason for removing the BRT? When we spoke with our commissioner, he was telling that there was the data from the Gokhale Institute that it is BRT is not correct, BRT is having lot of flaws and everything. But the major thing is, in last 5 years, when the metro work started, from last 5 years, the metro work, when it started, the BRT was closed. It was completely closed. It was closed in that area where metro work was not going on also. So it means that purposefully this metro work under the name of metro work, BRT was shuttered down. Another thing is urban local bodies. If you say urban local bodies, they are not giving funds. Very true. Our Pune Municipal Corporation, they neglected the BRT. Absolutely. It is absolutely true. Another thing is, many persons say that urban local bodies is not having fund. No, we are having funds. We are having a budget of 6,000 crore rupees nowadays. And still, if we are not able to maintain BRT, which it doesn't look nice. the way of thinking that we are not having fund and all. No, it is also wrong. The third thing is that in the BRT, as Mr. Jha was telling, nearly our per population, the number of buses is only 0.3. But we were demanding more buses should be purchased, more buses should be given by the union government or the state government, and purchase of say 1000 buses is costing say X amount. We are doing metro work which is costing 100x. Still we are giving money for that. So why not we are having a willpower to give a end-to-end service of public transport by increasing the number of buses in the Pune. It is also not done. So this is another thing. Third thing which fourth thing which I want to point out is the number of accidents which took place in last 10 years. Number of accidents which took place in last 10 years, and the BRT which is removed in that particular lane, which is from say Yerwada onwards till Ramwadi. I want to make a point here that the BRT which is now removed, it is not having metro in that corridor. Try to understand this. Metro is not running in that particular area where BRT has been removed. So what was the point? I am having all the record from the police department. In last 4 years, only one fatal accident took place in the corridor where the BRT is removed. So is this the way of implementing the BRT? Second, the fifth thing is, in this BRT lane, the private vehicles, they are coming inside. Who is responsible for that? Police administration is responsible. They are not having manpower. They are not having any system. They are not doing anything for stopping this particular all private vehicles to come inside. It is their fault. It is their mistake. And to hide their mistake, they gave a report to collector or to the Pune Municipal Corporation that you remove BRT. This is not logically understood. That it is your bad things, your work which is not proper, to hide your improperness. You are telling to remove the BRT. That is another thing. Next thing is, in all these technical aspects, many of the persons, they are already from the day when the BRT started, from day onwards, they were opposing BRT. What they wanted committed BRT. Now, committed BRT cannot be there anywhere in India. It is not committed. They wanted the lane to be on the left side only. They didn't wanted the lane in the middle. But anyhow, the person has to travel from left to right. Either it is in the middle lane or in the left side lane. He has to travel. There is a risk of traveling everywhere. So they can't understand this. Another thing is, in BRT, we gave suggestions that you give ST buses, ambulance, and then fire brigade vehicles, and also the school buses to go. Now, if this all come in the BRT, the bus rapid, the speed is going to decrease. Absolutely right. But the non-BRT lane, they will get less number of vehicles in their area. So their speed will increase. So what are we doing? What are we going to achieve? We are just increasing the speed of the private vehicles. We are not going to increase the speed of the persons who are using the public transport. So indirectly, public transport is sure to be sidelined and only private vehicles are allowed. Is that the motto? No, I think this is a wrong motto. Last thing which I want to justify here is, in all these BRT lanes, nobody is taking responsibility for making the BRT public transport system as a strengthening one. No one. Neither the police department, neither the PMC, Municipal Corporation, or neither the PMPL. Both, all these three stakeholders, nobody is taking responsibility for running this particular BRTS corridor perfectly. That is another thing. I will give you another example. When Munde was there as PMPL chairman, how the BRT was working and functioning very nicely. When other persons are coming, nobody wants to be there in the chair of PMPL chairman. No IS person wants to go in that particular place. So what is the willpower then? So it is a personal view that either you have to strengthen the public transport system or you don't have to strengthen the public transport system. And the last thing is, in the full corridor of BRT of the Nagar Road, nearly 30% of the corridor, it is totally occupied by the encroachers. And urban local body is not making any activity, any hard activity to remove these encroachments. No encroachment is been removed. You can today also come and you can see that there are encroachments in this 200 feet road, and the road is only now 120 feet at some places. Even metro has made encroachment. This is not the obligation I am doing, but it is the observation which I am seeing. If you see the metro station and the persons coming out from the metro station, the 200 feet road, it is narrowed out, and there were agitations to remove this metro itself. So if the road is narrowed at one particular bottleneck point, then why we are blaming only BRT, not the metro also? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think very valid points, and it is really great to have a political representative who has very clear understanding of sustainable transport. And I still remember that when you were deputy mayor, parking policy was sanctioned, then a lot of street design, good footpath work, cycle plan was sanctioned.
Yeah.
So really good to have you in this panel today. I wish Qaniz ma'am was here because your couple of points also addressed her questions that she raised. And like you said, it's not just about political will, but also administrative will, and the power of administration is important. So after this, I would like to request Mangesh Ji, who represents media, and he has covered sustainable mobility and transportation in Pune for so many years. I request Mangesh Ji to share his views with the audience. Over to you.
Yes, thank you enough के team के. I will speak in Hindi. I made my presentation in Marathi. So my voice is audible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I have a short presentation. मैं बहुत साल से ट्रांसपोर्ट कर रहा हूँ, ऐसा भी आपको बताया गया है. तो यस, इट्स ट्रू दैट जब बीआरटी का सवाल आता है तो मैंने बहुत साल से बीआरटी का शुरुआत जब पायलट प्रोजेक्ट पुणे में हुआ था तब से बीआरटी में कवर कर रहा हूँ. एक मिनट, मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन में एडजस्ट करता हूँ. यस, जैसे अभी हमारे प्रीवियस डिस्कशन में बहुत बीआरटी के बारे में बातें हो रही है. जैसे देसाई सर ने कहा, कनिज जी ने कहा, हमारे कमिश्नर थे झा सर, उन्होंने भी कहा कि इसके बारे में, तो इसका बैकग्राउंड के बारे में प्रांजलि ने पहले प्रेजेंटेशन में ही बता दिया था. तो मैं वो बात कर रहा हूँ मीडिया का जो परसेप्शन रहता है, मीडिया जो हमेशा बीआरटी के बारे में सोचती है, तो इसके बारे में मैं ज्यादा से बात करूंगा. ये जो इनिशियली हमने बीआरटी की थी, तो मेरे को एक एज पर माय एक्सपीरियंस पुणे में मीडिया ने ऑलवेज बीआरटी को सपोर्ट किया है. और ये सिर्फ बीआरटी को सपोर्ट नहीं किया तो पब्लिक, अच्छा कोई पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट सिस्टम रहती है तो उसके लिए मीडिया सपोर्ट करता है, इंक्लूडिंग ऑल चैनल्स ने भी की है. जैसे हमारे प्रीवियस डिस्कशन में बात हुई थी पब्लिक परसेप्शन के बारे में, तो बीआरटी के बारे में, पीएमपी के बारे में पब्लिक परसेप्शन जो है वो हमेशा चेंज होता गया है। जैसे इनिशियली 2006 में हमने शुरुआत की थी, तब उस वक्त बीआरटी पे सिक्योरिटी नहीं थी, तो कुछ सारे एक्सीडेंट्स हुए थे, तो उस वक्त से फिर उसके बारे में न्यूज़ आए थे। लेकिन बाद में जैसे जैसे हम बीआरटी डेवलप करते गए तो उसमें कुछ सुधारणाएं हो गई, तो कुछ अभी की बीआरटी है वो जो ज़्यादा सुरक्षित कहती है कि इसके लिए लोग भी उसको अप्रिशिएट करने लगे थे। लेकिन जैसे प्रीवियस डिस्कशन में आया था, कोविड के बाद पूना में भी बीआरटी के बीच में कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ गए, बाद में मेट्रो की वजह से प्रॉब्लम आ गए। जैसे मेट्रो की वजह से नगर रोड पे प्रॉब्लम आया, बीआरटी जो शुरू थी उस पर बहुत सारी लिमिटेशंस आ गई थी। और जैसे बीआरटी इज टोटल वन ऑफ द पार्ट इन द पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट सिस्टम, तो पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट ये सिटी के अच्छी होनी चाहिए। जैसे जहाँ सर ने बताया था उसमें यूएलबी का बहुत बड़ा रोल है। तो पूना में बस की संख्या बहुत कम है, ऐसा जब डिस्कशन में आया था तो हमने 10 साल पहले 13 नवंबर 2003 को, सब मैं जो पेपर में काम करता हूँ सकाल मीडिया ग्रुप में, वहाँ पे उन्होंने 13 नवंबर को पुणे बस डे ऑर्गेनाइज किया था। तब पीएमपी के बस के पीएमपी के फ्लीट में 950 तो 1000 बस थी, और उस वक्त से हम चल रहा है कि हमको कम से कम 3000 जैसे 3000 बसेस चाहिए पूरे सिटी लाइक पुणे के लिए। तो उस दिन वो 13 नवंबर हमने पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन की मदद से 3000 बस रोड पे लाई थी, और उसमें से 12 से 13 लाख पैसेंजर्स ने एक दिन में ट्रैवल किया था, जब उनका फ्लीट था 900 बसेस, और ट्रैवलर्स थे नियर अबाउट 6 लाख से 7 लाख। तो जब कोई ऐसा एफर्ट करता है तो पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन, पब्लिक रिस्पॉन्स उसको अच्छा मिलता है। तो ये बात हमेशा वो अंडरलाइन हो गई। अभी 2023 की बात करें, अभी भी वहाँ पे फ्लीट में 3000 के ज़्यादा बसेस नहीं है, और पैसेंजर भी 12-13 लाख के आगे नहीं है। तो इसके लिए हम हमेशा एज अ मीडिया, नॉट ओनली सका ग्रुप बट ओवरऑल मीडिया, बीआरटी में जो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अच्छी तरीके से उसमें करेक्शन हो जाए। जैसे कनिष्ठ मैम ने बताया था कि एज टू एज बीआरटी होनी चाहिए, डेडिकेटेड बीआरटी होनी चाहिए। तो इट्स अ प्रोसेस, इट्स अ लॉन्ग टर्म प्रोसेस। तो ये जो ऑपरेट होती है तो धीरे धीरे उस पर सुधारना होती है। और इसमें से एक बात अच्छी थी, 2017 का जो पुणे कॉर्पोरेशन का इलेक्शन था, तब हमने बहुत सारे पार्टीज को प्रीवियस इलेक्शन के बाद जब उनका जाहिरनामा आता है तो उनको मैनिफेस्टो आता है तो उसमें पूछा था, तो उसमें उसका रिफ्लेक्शन था, इंक्लूडिंग कांग्रेस, राष्ट्रवादी कांग्रेस, भारतीय जनता पार्टी, शिवसेना, सब ने बताया था कि हम बीआरटी को स्ट्रेंथन करेंगे। लेकिन वो स्ट्रेंथन करेंगे, बाद में किसी पार्टी का गवर्नमेंट कॉर्पोरेशन में आया वो बात अलग है, लेकिन बीआरटी स्ट्रेंथन हुई नहीं। आज एज ऑन टुडे पीएमपी की वेबसाइट आप देखोगे तो सिर्फ 7 रूट है और 118 किलोमीटर की बीआरटी है, ऐसा वो कह रहे, लेकिन ये रियलिटी नहीं है, उससे भी बीआरटी कम है। तो अकॉर्डिंग टू बीआरटी के सामने कुछ चैलेंजेस है। तो चैलेंजेस क्या है, तो जैसे प्रीवियस डिस्कशन में हमारा आया था, उसका वो नगर रोड की बीआरटी के पैसेंजर 3 लाख से ज्यादा गई थी पर डे, 3 लाख तक पहुंचे थे। सातारा रोड को भी अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स था, हड़पसर रोड को भी अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स था। लेकिन ये जो पैसेंजर्स का वॉइस है, ये अनऑर्गेनाइज वॉइस है, और जो पॉलिसी मेकर्स है और एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स है उनके तरफ ये आवाज पहुंचना चाहिए था। लेकिन मीडिया ने भी कुछ एफर्ट्स किए, लेकिन वो वहां तक पहुंचा नहीं। तो दिस इज द ये बड़ा चैलेंज है इन फ्रंट ऑफ मीडिया, क्योंकि 12-13 लाख पैसेंजर कर रहे हैं तो उनका कोई ऑर्गेनाइज वॉइस नहीं है जो इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकता है। दूसरी बात यह है कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन लेवल पे इसको, जैसे सिद्धार्थ जी ने भी बताया, तो पूरा उस पर फोकस नहीं किया, क्योंकि जैसे झा सर ने बताया था ये सिटी की रिक्वायरमेंट है, ये किसी पार्टी का एजेंडा नहीं, किसी एनजीओ का एजेंडा नहीं है। तो ये लोगों का एजेंडा है, और ये एजेंडा करने के लोगों का एजेंडा है जो लोगों की जरूरत है। और इसके लिए सिविक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन यानी कि यूएलबी ने ज्यादा उस पर कॉन्सेंट्रेट करना चाहिए था। लेकिन जैसे हम देखते हैं हर 2 साल बाद 3 साल बाद कमिश्नर चेंज होते हैं, तो उनका प्रायोरिटी अलग होता है, एंड बाद में का कमिश्नर पहले के कमिश्नर की प्रायोरिटी कैरी करेंगे, ये एक बात उसमें नहीं होती। और दूसरी एक बड़ी बात उसमें है कि बीआरटी का एग्जीक्यूशन करना है तो सिर्फ ये कॉरपोरेशन की, अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है, उसमें ट्रैफिक पुलिस भी इन्वॉल्व रहते हैं, दोनों सिटीज के आरटीओ भी इनडायरेक्टली इन्वॉल्व है, पीएमआरडी जैसी एजेंसी है। तो अभी पुणे में एग्जांपल क्या हुआ, पुणे कॉर्पोरेशन, पिंपरी कॉर्पोरेशन एंड ट्रैफिक पुलिस, दोनों कॉर्पोरेशन ने रेजोल्यूशन किए थे बीआरटी के हम नेटवर्क बड़ा उनका स्ट्रेंथन करेंगे, लेकिन पुलिस का जो उसका रवैया था, वो अप्रोच था, वो निगेटिव अप्रोच था। तो बार बार उन्होंने, कॉर्पोरेशन के लोगों को भी मालूम रहेगा, ये बहुत सारे एनजीओ के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स को मालूम है, कॉर्पोरेशन ने एक बार टेंडर निकाला तो वहां पे जो ट्रैफिक का चेंजेस करना है, पुलिस उसको लिए टाइम नहीं देती थी, बाद में वो टेंडर का जो वर्क ऑर्डर था वो लैप्स हो जाता था। ऐसे बहुत सारे इंसिडेंट हुए हैं। तो ये एक बड़ा चैलेंज है कि जो मल्टीपल एजेंसीज है उसमें कोऑर्डिनेशन नहीं है। हम बहुत देर में बीआरटी के सामने चैलेंजेस किया है, वो मीडियम में वेज में होने चाहिए या साइड में होने चाहिए, इसके बारे में डिस्कस करें, उसकी उपयुक्तता क्या है। मेरे को लगता है ये अभी ऑडियंस में है जो हमारे साथ साथी है, तो उनको बीआरटी तो मालूम है, ये होना ही चाहिए। उसमें के जो आर्गुमेंट्स है, वो आर्गुमेंट्स का भी हल निकाला जा सकता है। लेकिन ये पुणे जैसी सिटी, यार पुणे का पॉपुलेशन मोर देन 60 lakhs हुआ है और ये काफी रैपिडली ग्रोथ हो रहा है। और जब भी हमने पहले प्रांजलि ने बताया था, कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव मोबिलिटी प्लान में हमसे ने प्लान किया है 70% तक जाएंगे, लेकिन अभी भी पुणे में पब्लिक पार्ट जो ट्रांसपोर्ट का यूज है वो 12-15% से ज्यादा नहीं है। ये मेट्रो आने के बाद भी कुछ ज्यादा फर्क पड़ा नहीं है। तो मेरे को लगता है ये हमने बीआरटी के सामने जो चैलेंजेस है, वो चैलेंजेस में एक हमने प्रेशर ग्रुप का बारे में काम करना चाहिए, और प्रेशर ग्रुप के बाद में उसके लिए कुछ एक्शन प्लान बनना चाहिए। तो इसमें एक्शन प्लान क्या बन सकता है, तो मेरे को लगता है कि ये जो हमारे पीपल्स रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, नॉट ओनली इन द कॉर्पोरेशन, तो एमएलए एमपी, तो उस लेवल पर हमने बात करनी चाहिए। हमने प्रीवियस इनिशियली डिस्कशन किया था, लेकिन जैसे डीसीएम रहते, सीएम रहते, गार्डियन मिनिस्टर रहते हैं, वो गार्डियन मिनिस्टर उसको अलाउड करते हैं, वो उसको उनको ये बीआरटी के फायदे हुए वो उन्होंने एक्सेप्ट किए थे। इसलिए जो हमारे अभी के डीसीएम है अजित पवार, ही वाज द गार्डियन मिनिस्टर इन 2016-17 एंड हिज पार्टी वाज इन द पावर इन द कॉर्पोरेशन। तो उन्होंने आळंदी रोड विश्रांतवाड़ी कॉरिडोर का उन्होंने इनॉग्रेशन किया था, उन्होंने पीसीएमसी का भी इनॉग्रेशन किया था। तो सीनियर लेवल पे ज्यादा उसके लिए अनुकूलता लगती है, लेकिन लोकल कॉर्पोरेटर लेवल पे उसके लिए एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को उसके साथ स्ट्रगल करना पड़ता है। दूसरी बात हम ये कर सकते हैं कि जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज है, डिफरेंट पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज, जैसे उनके सीनियर लीडर से हमेशा बात करके उनके पीछे उनके पास कंटिन्यूअस फॉलोअप करना पड़ेगा कि ये बीआरटी आपको सिटी के लिए बहुत इतनी सारी इम्पोर्टेंट है, तो उसके लिए हमको काम करना पड़ेगा। जैसे अभी ये पुणे जैसे सिटीज में मल्टी मोडल ट्रांसपोर्ट मॉडल से उनको इंटीग्रेट करने के लिए उमटा का एग्जीक्यूशन हो रहा है, उमटा काम कर रही है। तो उमटा ने अभी ये ट्रैफिक प्लान करने का रेजोल्यूशन किया था लास्ट मीटिंग में। तो अभी जो इनका इंटीग्रेटेड ट्रैफिक प्लान होगा उसमें अभी वो मेट्रो ऐड किया है, लेकिन उसमें बीआरटी भी होनी चाहिए। जैसे हम डेवलपमेंट प्लान में बात करते हैं, गार्डन्स होने चाहिए, डिस्पेंसरीज होने चाहिए, तो उसी तरीके से बीआरटी भी होनी चाहिए। इसके लिए अभी हम उमटा से ही फॉलोअप करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि दैट इज नोडल एजेंसी फॉर दैट, वो सारे बातें करने के लिए एंड प्रॉपर अथॉरिटी है। जैसे हमने डेवलपमेंट प्लान के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, और डेवलपमेंट प्लान पुणे में 97 में एक बार हुआ, 2017 में हुआ। तो डेवलपमेंट प्लान के बारे में ज्यादा एग्जीक्यूशन होता नहीं है। पहला प्लान था वो 30% से भी ज्यादा नहीं हुआ। अभी दूसरा प्लान है, अभी 6 साल हो गए, 7वां साल चालू होगा अभी कुछ दिनों में, तो अभी 25% भी उसका डेवलपमेंट प्लान हुआ नहीं है। तो वो डेवलपमेंट प्लान में क्या था, जो पीएमपी जैसे पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट प्रोवाइडर एजेंसी है, उसके लिए कुछ रिजर्वेशंस रखे थे, वो एक्वायर नहीं हुए। बीआरटी के बारे में उसमें कुछ नहीं है। तो ये वापस हमको डेवलपमेंट प्लान के बारे में ज्यादा फॉलोअप करना पड़ेगा, और इसका एक्शन प्लान हम बनाएंगे तो वो हम बार बार लोगों के सामने हम रख सकते हैं। इसमें एक हम शॉर्ट टर्म गोल्स एंड लॉन्ग टर्म गोल्स ऐसा कुछ डिवाइड कर सकते हैं। जैसे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव फॉलोअप इज वन ऑफ द पार्ट, जो फॉलोअप टुवर्ड्स पीपल्स रिप्रेजेंटेटिव उनकी तरफ ये रहेगा। जैसे मीडिया के पास, मीडिया तो हमेशा इसके साथ रहती है, लेकिन एक मीडिया के साथ भी हम डिस्कशन इंटरेक्शन करके कुछ शॉर्ट टर्म प्लान, लॉन्ग टर्म प्लान कर सकते हैं। और जैसे हमने बात की थी कम्यूटर्स जो हमारे पैसेंजर्स है पीएमपी के, तो वो अनऑर्गेनाइज है, उनके लिए रिप्रेजेंटेशन के लिए कोई 2-3 एनजीओस पुणे में काम करती है, जैसे पीएमपी प्रवासी मंच है, सजग नागरिक मंच है, लेकिन उनको का जो पैसेंजर्स है वो केटर नहीं कर सकते, तो उसके लिए हमें कुछ तो सोचना पड़ेगा। और पांचवी बात है ये जो कोर्ट में जाने का, तो ये न्यायालयीन संघर्ष भी हम इसके लिए कर सकते हैं। जैसे मैंने बात की थी, मैं मीडिया से हूँ, तो मीडिया के बारे में जब हम डिस्कस करते हैं तो हमारे एडिटर जैसे सीनियर लेवल पे वो एक्सेप्ट करते हैं, उनको ये समझ आता है, वो समझ लेते हैं। लेकिन जब लोकल लेवल पे हमारे स्ट्रेंजर्स रहते हैं, रिपोर्टर्स रहते हैं और फोटोग्राफर्स रहते हैं, जैसे हमारा फोटोग्राफर कुछ जाता है तो बीआरटी में कुछ टूटा फूटा हुआ लगता है तो वो इमीडिएट फोटो आता है, हम पब्लिश करते हैं। लेकिन बीआरटी में कुछ जाना है, वो अलग तरीके से बीआरटी से प्राइवेट व्हीकल नहीं अलाउड करना है, तो इसके लिए जो लोकल लेवल के जो मीडिया रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, रिपोर्टर एंड फोटोग्राफ, तो उनका ट्रेनिंग के बारे में अभी हम कुछ डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि पुणे श्रमिक पत्रकार संघ जैसी एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ हम कुछ बात करके जो लोकल लेवल के रिपोर्टर फोटोग्राफर है उनके लिए एक वर्कशॉप ले सकते हैं। ये इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है बीआरटी का, हम बीआरटी के लिए क्यों इतना फॉलोअप कर रहे हैं, सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, ये उनको भी हम एक्सप्लेन कर देते हैं, तो ये मोमेंट में वो हमारे साथ जुड़ जा सकते हैं। एंड माय लास्ट पॉइंट इज पीएमपी का जो हमारा का पीएमपी एंड बीआरटी के लिए काम करना है, तो जो हमारा एक्शन प्लान रहेगा, तो एक्शन प्लान में अभी हम सोशल मीडिया को इसमें इंक्लूड करने की ज्यादा जरूरत पड़ेगी, क्योंकि कॉलेज गोइंग स्टूडेंट्स जो हमारे कम्यूटर्स भी है, तो उनको भी हम बीआरटी क्या है, बीआरटी के बारे में लोग इतना क्यों बात कर रहे हैं, ये सिर्फ मीडिया पे चैनल पे आ रहा है, तो उसका इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है, इसीलिए हमको कुछ कॉलेजेस में जाना पड़ेगा, तो भी जाने की जरूरत है। जब 2016-17 में रेनबो बीआरटी विश्रांत वाड़ी एंड नगर रोड पे एक्टिवेट हुई थी, तो एफर्ट्स कुछ हुए थे कि बीआरटी कॉरिडोर, रेनबो बीआरटी में, तो कॉरिडोर के नजदीक के जो कॉलेजेस है, जो स्कूल से, वहां पे जाके कुछ पब्लिक अवेयरनेस करने की कोशिश हुई थी, लेकिन वो कंटिन्यूटी उसमें नहीं रही थी। तो इसके लिए मुझे लगता है कि कुछ एक्शन प्लान भी होना चाहिए। एंड जैसे सेव बीआरटी सेव पुणे के जैसे हम कैचलाइन करेंगे तो आगे जाएंगे, तो इसमें बहुत सारे पुणेकर हमें हमारे साथ जुड़ सकते हैं। और एक बात लास्ट में मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि ये बीआरटी सिटी की रिक्वायरमेंट है, लोगों की जरूरत है, पुणे एंड पिंपरी चिंचवड़ को, जैसे ये उमटा भी उसमें पार्टिसिपेट हो सकती है। उमटा पार्टिसिपेट बोले तो पॉलिसी फ्रेम करने वाली है, तो ये हम शॉर्ट टर्म गोल, हम लॉन्ग टर्म गोल निकालेंगे कीर्ति सर, तो ये वेबिनार ज्यादा फ्रूटफुल रहेगा ऐसा मेरे को लगता है। और जो लॉन्ग टर्म शॉर्ट टर्म गोल्स हम प्लान करेंगे, आप आई नो दैट यू आर ऑल, आप सब एक्सपर्ट्स हो, कुछ इसका हल हम एक्शन प्लान बनाएंगे, तो वो ज्यादा एज अ मीडिया पर्सन मैं आपको कमिट कर सकता हूँ कि हम आगे लेके जाने के लिए ज्यादा कोशिश कर सकता हूँ। ये फोरम पे मेरे को अपॉर्चुनिटी दी, इसलिए थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू मंगेश जी, बहुत ही वैलिड पॉइंट, सेव बीआरटी सेव पुणे, आई थिंक यहाँ पे हम लोग आज पहुंचे हैं। और 2-3 बहुत अच्छे मुद्दे आपने उठाए कि भले ही पॉलिटिकल विल हो ना हो, हम लोग हमेशा लाइक काफी सारी बार पॉलिटिकल विल को क्रिटिसाइज किया जाता है, बट आज की तारीख में जो लोग पुणे से नहीं है उनको मैं बता दूं, आज की तारीख में पुणे में जनरल बॉडी नहीं है, मेयर डेप्यूटी मेयर नहीं है, कमिश्नर इज द एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर और प्रशासक जिसको बोलते हैं वो है। और इसी दौरान हमारी पुणे बीआरटी, एक नगर रोड की बीआरटी को डिमोलिश किया गया है। तो डेफिनेटली एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव विल भी उतनी ही जरूरी है जितनी हम लोग पॉलिटिकल विल की बात करते हैं। और एक मुद्दा आपने न्यायालयीन संघर्ष के बारे में भी बहुत एक अच्छा अलग पहलू रखा है सबके सामने। मैं थोड़ा सा सीक्वेंस को चेंज करके रंजीत गाडगिल को बुलाना चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि जो मंगेश जी ने बोला कि बसेस चाहिए पुणे में बहुत ज्यादा, और पुणे बस डे ने ये साबित किया था कि अगर बसेस ज्यादा हो रोड पे तो लोग अपने प्राइवेट व्हीकल छोड़ के बस में ट्रेवल करते हैं या करना चाहते हैं। तो रंजीत गाडगिल ने 1,00,000 को 50 एक कैंपेन है उस पे काम किया है कि 1 लाख अगर पॉपुलेशन है तो उसमें पर लाख 50 बसेस आर रिक्वायर्ड। सो रंजीत जी, ओवर टू यू, आप इसके बारे में थोड़ा बताइएगा, और उसका ही नेक्स्ट स्टेप जो बीआरटी है, पुणे की बीआरटी है, उसके बारे में भी थोड़ा सा हमारे साथ शेयर कीजिएगा। थैंक यू। मंगेश, आप आपका स्क्रीन शेयरिंग ऑफ कर सकते हैं। थैंक यू।
Thank you, first of all, to Kirti Bhai for arranging this important discussion on such a short notice, understanding the need for this to happen so close to an event that has essentially triggered this, and in a sense which allows us to step back and think about why we got here, what happened, and perhaps ponder upon what we need to do if we are to move forward. So I will take this opportunity to talk a little bit about this campaign, but I will talk about that campaign towards the end of what I want to say. I have no presentation. I will simply make my points. I think one of the things that does need to be stressed, and I'll try to get to that, is that I think we were missing some critical elements, which perhaps was one of the reasons why we got to the state where we are today. In 2018, February of 2018 and August of 2019, already we were beginning to see signs of this issue, which is that, for instance, the 2018 article says PCMC to approach High Court to vacate the stay on the BRT lane. Social activists and citizen groups have expressed concerns regarding the launch of the Nigadi-Dapodi BRTS corridor because of the absence of proper safety measures on the corridor. And the reason, and the August article is about the Satara Road BRT, and which again talks about the safety issues. And it talks about how the civic administration has tabled a proposal in the standing committee to appoint IIT to undertake a safety audit. These two issues were indicative of a deeper malaise that BRT was suffering from. And essentially, the arguments that were made when Nagar Road BRT was removed was heavily based upon the fact that this is a system which is not safe, and therefore it needs to be removed, and nobody can argue against the safety of people. It is indeed, I wish Qaniz was here, not so much in a sense that, I mean to take this opportunity to respond to some of the issues that she had raised. But nonetheless, as a citizen, she certainly has the right to gather facts and present them as she feels fit. However, one must note that despite the fact that she said that it was all based on facts, I think it is interspersed with some opinions, which are technical opinions. And one should at least defer to technical experts who have implemented such kinds of systems across various cities. So for instance, the question of whether the BRT should be in the central lane, I think is something that is fairly well understood amongst all of the proponents of public transport and bus rapid transit systems and so on and so forth. So I think when people raise those kinds of concerns at this stage, I think it does mean, and I do agree, that there hasn't been enough information available for people about some of these things. Nonetheless, even though a citizen has the right to raise these issues, Qaniz is an extremely diligent and dedicated activist who has gathered a lot of information through RTIs. This does not absolve the PMC from conducting a proper, thorough investigation and preparing a report which then has the proper recommendations. And I think that all civil society organizations, including the ones who spoke against the BRT, should at least insist on good governance. Good governance cannot be insisted upon only when you want the decisions that are not in your favor, and then give it a bypass when you achieve something that you've been recommending all along. So ends don't justify the means, and civil society has very little, if nothing, which is the reliance upon the law and the proper procedure to be followed by an urban local body. Therefore, the manner in which this BRT has been removed, which is completely ad hoc, there is no report. There is no report available in the public domain. Should have been criticized, even though that might have been what you wanted, because we still want to insist on a proper procedure. And I think this has been something that has been extremely disturbing to us here in Pune, that the commissioner has decided, in a sense, on his own accord, to take a decision without making any procedure about this. And I think that I will leave it there. Ultimately, we talked about a lot of issues, and various people have talked about what has been lacking in the BRT systems. But I think underlying all of this, and this is something that all of us sustainable transport advocates have been saying all along, the heart of the opposition to BRT comes from the fact that it takes away a lane from private vehicles. This is really what underlies that, nothing else. And so a lot of us have been working very hard. Obviously, we have not succeeded in trying to continue to push the idea that you can't have more space for private vehicles, that will not solve congestion problems. And it reminds me of this quote that I like. I came upon it recently, that you design your street for the traffic you want, not the traffic that you have. And I think what we're doing is that we're trying to design our streets for the traffic we have, or that we are projecting, rather than what we really want in our cities. And I think several people have alluded to the fact that you need an excellent public transport system to have efficient cities. And so here I come to perhaps some of the points that I'd like to mention, which may not have been mentioned before, is that when JNURM came up with the idea that they want to allocate funds for the bus rapid transit system, what we perhaps should have looked at are some of the statutes around this. And Mr. Jha has very nicely summarized some of the issues regarding public transport and municipal laws. However, when it came to the bus rapid transit system, we had nothing. We had no statutes. There was not even a definition of a bus rapid transit system. And it just doesn't work when you have crores of rupees allocated for what is seen to be a major transport system in cities. Several cities built bus rapid transit at that time. Some of it was, as Qaniz said, could hardly be called a BRT. But again, what was the standard to which they needed to adhere to? There were several issues that came up in addition to the safety issue. For instance, what is the BRT? Do we have definitions of a mixed BRT, hybrid BRT? There were legal issues that came up regarding right side doors on buses, signages. How do you notify these bus lanes? What can be in a bus shelter? These are structures that are built in the middle of the road. And so what can you have on those shelters? And all of this became a nightmare for the administration that was trying to build these things. But most critically, since that has emerged as a dominant theme in our discussion today, it was the lack of a BRT safety. And if you will notice, all other major transport systems have a safety procedure embedded within the statute that controls that form of transport. So for instance, the Metro Operations Act, there are two Metro Acts. It actually has a safety commissioner who is then responsible for both coming up with the safety protocols which have been developed, and to certify that this system is safe. And you will have read many times in the media how the Metro is undertaking its safety audits before it becomes open to the public. And so I think we missed some of these things. Some of these things were done in a completely ad hoc manner. Even appointments of IITs, for instance, is fairly ad hoc. We don't know whether they're following any protocols. And typically what you also have when you have acts and statutes is you will notify corridors, and there's a statutory process for both the implementation as well as the removal. And therefore, it sort of closes the loop on this ad hoc removal of BRT in Pune. Typically, you would have to have a notified process for the removal of something that you have built. Since then, the only change that has happened is that there is an IRC guideline for bus rapid transit that I think was published in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 19, which is for the first time a document that clearly lays out the various aspects of a bus rapid transit system, including its definitions, etc. And while it would have been in the nature of a guideline earlier on, now with the advent of the amendments that were made in the Motor Vehicles Act and the Central Motor Vehicle Rules, IRC guidelines are now mandated. They are statutory documents that have to be followed in the design, construction, and maintenance of all roadways. So perhaps there was an issue. The other thing that did come up, and I think this has been alluded to a little bit in terms of the capacities of ULBs, both state governments and central governments have created entities in the past whenever they've wanted to undertake major transport projects. So for instance, no ULB would have had the capacity to implement a metro rail system. So there's Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, and then subsequently various similar entities at the state level, for instance, Mahametro in Pune, and so on and so forth. The same thing happened when it came to roadways. There was MSRTC, there's always the PWD, has always been there. And I think there was another entity that had been created in Maharashtra also a while ago, maybe Mr. Jha will remember, when various road development works were to be taken up in urban local bodies. And therefore, there is always a way to create an entity that has the requisite experience to be able to execute these somewhat complicated works. And I think there is some merit to the argument that these are technically challenging systems that need careful consideration during the design and execution and operations process. I will simply now end with what I was supposed to start with, but to sort of emphasize that one of the reasons that we needed bus rapid transit in cities was because, in fact, we have a shortage of buses. And therefore, the bus rapid system can, to some extent, fill that gap by increasing the efficiency of the bus system as a whole, every bus and therefore the bus system. And we know very well that if buses aren't stuck in traffic, then they will be able to operate much more efficiently, thus also increasing their revenue and closing the gap between their operational costs and their the revenue that is generated, given the lack of sort of will that corporations have in order to fill this viability gap funding, as it's sometimes called. The situation is pretty bad in terms of the buses, and that is why we launched this campaign a couple of years ago called Lakh Ko Pachas, which basically emphasized the need for about 50 buses per lakh population. There's an old urban transport service level benchmarks document which sort of laid out a couple of levels of service, and we sort of chose 50 as a nifty thumb rule. It is to be noted that cities such as Singapore, London, what have you, have far in excess of this. Singapore, for instance, has close to 70 buses per lakh population. London almost as high as 100 buses per lakh population. This is in addition to substantial metro rail networks. So in general, the availability of public transport systems is much higher in these cities, and we are extremely starved of this. Pune and Mumbai both, which have fairly decent bus systems, have about 25 to 30 buses per lakh population. That's how little we have. Of course, Mumbai also has a very extensive urban rail network, which does a lot of the heavy lifting in that city. but the rest of the cities in Maharashtra do not. And in fact, if you remove Pune and Mumbai from this equation, we have 28 municipal corporations. You remove about the 10 or a dozen or so corporations that are part of the Mumbai and the Pune metropolitan regions. The rest have probably less than 10 buses per lakh population, and these cities have no other major transport systems to speak of. That's how bad the situation is, and I these are the 28 municipal corporations with a population greater than 3 lakhs that Mr. Jha also referred to when he said that they ought to have bus systems. And I will finally end only on a small comment on the funding. And I think I would like to reiterate the fact that I think it's a matter of allocation of funds and the will to be able to find the funds to support public transport. In Pune, and I'm sure this exercise could be done for Mumbai, if you just look at the budget that already exists and reallocate it, so we don't need more funds, you can actually get a substantial allocation for buses, for cycle tracks, for better footpaths, and so on and so forth. But a lot of this money is in fact going into road widening, which then incurs the kinds of costs that Mr. Jha talked about, because it's massively expensive to do that. And also flyovers, etc., which only serve the needs of private vehicles. So I think if there's a reallocation of these funds, in fact, you might be left over with money to then take care of some of the other critical municipal functions that Mr. Jha also referred to, and I agree that we must have those basics before we talk about these other systems. Similarly, we're missing out on certain revenue sources such as parking, and I think in Mumbai, Ashok Datar has done some back of the envelope calculations. Similarly, in Pune, by Pranjali or ITDP, this can be a substantial source of revenue and serves two purposes. It also dampens the private vehicle usage, which is what we desperately need in our cities. And also, we should not forget that metro isn't cheap. It's an extremely expensive mode of transport. So what does the state do? It ensures that there's a revenue source for metro. So, for instance, metro benefits from this 1% stamp duty that has been levied and expeditiously passed by the state government when it needed funds for metro. But as again Mr. Jha said, this has been a neglected subject since independence, and we simply forgot to create these revenue sources for things like buses also. So I think that's where I'll end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ranjit. First of all, thanks for elaborating transport budget and how it should be done by the cities, because I don't think there are lack of funds with Pune or Mumbai Municipal Corporation, but somewhere allocation is not happening in the right manner. And also raising important point of good governance, which means that, even if the things happen in your favor or not, you should still push for it. Like we know that this Gokhale Institute report doesn't exist, or at least none of us have it, or most of us don't have it, or it is the transparency somewhere is missing. So leaving this here, I think we just have two panelists. Sorry, Vijay Anadkat ji, to keep you waiting and changing the sequence at the last moment. But over to you. We would like to learn from you about experience from small cities and why they are going for BRT, how they are managing to have BRT on narrow roads also. And then we'll have Kirti Bhai, who will share his learnings from the story of BRT reports and sum up today's session. Over to you, Vijay ji.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Kirti Bhai, and panel. It's that sometimes it's small is beautiful, but how you implement is a very important thing. Is that. Though I'm that at last, but allow me to share my screen, because that there is no that. I don't have that
Okay, you can't see share screen option on your screen?
Yeah, that it says you don't have right to that.
Okay, Bhuma ji, can you please sort it out? Or Kimaya, are you there?
I'll present the presentation for you. Give me a minute.
Okay, thanks.
It has the one like slide as the different, but anyway, like say that I will skip it, like say that.
No,
is-
I've sent it to Kemal.
I've got the updated one, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yes, just give me a minute.
Please.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's a great.
I'll just put it into a presentation mode. Yeah, is it visible?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like so that.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
And sorry for this. Like so that mishap and like so that. So next slide, please. Like say the basically what we are like say that doing in the silo manners. This all these like say six. Like say the bus-based public transport or say BRT or say NMT or like say that the like say how we can do the like say IPT or Metro Neo, Metro Light or like say now we are jumping with the like say that electric mobility. All these are like say that working in the silo manners that instead of like say fighting against the like say that climate change and what we want to really require to do the like say strong public transport system in the city. That must be our like say aim, but it is not like say happening because of the one reason the Jha sir has like say help me like say very easily to like say and explain that there is a no legal background supporting this like say across the country. And the very important thing is like say that we are a lot of times speaking about UMTA, that is Urban Unified Metropolitan Development Authority, or sometimes we are saying that, like said, there must be some kind of single authority who can handle. Even in Gujarat, we try MATA, Multimodal Affordable Transport Authority, but like say this is the like say not happening in a correct way at the like say at the city level or the state level. So like say that I want to say that this, if all the six people, like say related to like say whether it's a policy makers or like someone, if come together, then only we can able to like say do the in a perfect way to fight between like say that's climate change. So I am putting like say that quickly the case study of Rajkot. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. Yeah, next, please. So what we really require before, like say, planning or designing any system, it must be integrated with the land use and like say, this is the like say, what we are seeing in theory, but really we are doing or not, it's a doubt. The Rajkot having the population is like say about 1.218 million, and now it's about 1.6 million, or maybe like say that by 2031 is the 2.1 million. So, but the like say change we see this is the from the like say the overall like say that land use remains same. So that means the like say the across the even country, if you see that like roads total availability is about 15% and residential ranges from 15 to 52 to 65 in between the residential zones. And then like say that what we see that the even if we won't be able to consume our built up area in proper way or like say that less list the FSI. Considering this, next point, when we plan this like say the Rajkot BRTS, which was planned in 2009 and got like say approval during that same year with the like say NURM funding, and it was planned, designed, and executed by the like say that the like say the people and the like say officer of the Rajkot Municipal Corporation itself. It was not like say influenced by any consultant in that time. It was like say having the lot of discussion, more than like say that the 52 public consultation meeting were held, and a plan was explained in people by putting the like say by like say chalk and like say the blackboard and like say on road and explaining by using the limes and that how we can make this like say this is the like say BRT system. So and very important thing is like say when it was designed, the governing structure is the SPV, what is called the special purpose vehicle, all frame, and saying that it's a Rajkot Rajpath Limited, which was like a functional BRTS buses with the same, with the like say the city bus services. So it is an integration between the BRT and like say bus services. If not, then it would not be like a successful, I believe so. Next, it's a like a small, about the 10.7 kilometers. There are the all elements of the like say that essential one road is required in the 45 meter of the width. These are the some of the photographs, and like say that next slide. It's like say that develop like say the BRT buses, and it's a simple but and not very expensive. It was like say that about 8 to 10 lakh rupees the bus, but it like say has all the facilities which really require for the any bus services. And time to time they've upgraded it. Presently, this is the all buses have like say shifted to this is the like say EV. So like say the Rajkot Rajpath Limited has like say all the like say that earlier there were the 10 buses. Now there are like say that about 20 buses running so every day. And next slide, it will give you the better idea about like so what like say how it performs. And the ticketing is like say major issues like say that they're the like say that long before, by using the Paytm you can directly get the like say ticket and you can move directly jump. And that time it was like say that in the during the 2014 the people could not understand that this can be happened. So that was the like say that the how the people were attracted. Next slide. So if we see this figure, like say that about the like say the 6.4 like say million people are traveling. So every day about 17,000 to 18,000 people are traveling on the 10 kilometer of like say having the only 10 buses. And the like say that if we check with the RMTS, like say that is Rajkot Municipal Transport Services, the city bus services, it's about the 7.4 lakhs having the 90 buses. So like say that the like say the BRTS with the 10 buses, they travel like say there are 64 lakh people are traveling. The simultaneously about like say there 70 lakhs people are traveling through 90 city bus services, like say that. And here the revenue income is about the 4.65. In Gujarat, you may be knowing that there is a VGF scheme available to the cities. So Rajkot Rajpath is not taking any VGF scheme. They are saying that they are collecting the like say revenue income from the like say bus services, and it's a like say from the 2012 onwards, like today it is, there are the more than 11 years past, and it's like say perfectly working. And now during this like say smart city mission, they are extending by adding the 8 kilometers of this like say BRTS, and this is the from the people's demand. It is not like say that authority is deciding that we should like say do that. So what are the like say that the why this is called success story? I'm like say that narrating it last. The next slide, please. So what we really require, so like say we should focus like say called the 70-15-15, that the like say by putting the 70% in capex fund, we should also put like 15% of the opex. If you are not properly maintain your corridor, it won't work. This is the perfectly closed corridor. Rajkot BRTS is the perfectly like say and the corridor. And it also requires the 15% of communication within the like say people. That is why this is important. What is your requirement? How it can be make better for you? What are the like say that like, problems you are facing during the like say using the BRTs? And this you require by involving people through proper communication. So if not, then it won't success. The success rate like say mantra is to focus on 17-15-15. That like say that dynamic design as and when required, you have to change that. Like say that, for example, like say Surat adopted MIDI, like say that the over a period of time they believe that there it should have like say not like the standard bus will like the really require. So similarly you have to like say make some kind of changes in the like say that BRT system. If not, then the BRT will not success that. then like say that choice of the corridor, either for like say that like say focusing, like a first focus is on city bus to the BRT to the metro approach. What we are doing, that like say the same corridor here, like say that we are putting the metro, like say if you want to develop, it should be supported through the like say the feeder services by BRTS, and BRTS like say require the feeder services from city bus services, that we have to check like say that, and we have to put there like say that. And what we really require, there's only bus services or like say that BRT. If you want be charge the parking, or like say that you will not support the like say by the state or like say that from the municipal side, by using the viability gap funding or something, or through the transit oriented development. What in Rajkot, like say that they received the about 110 crores from the like say central in terms of the BRT's sanction, but through the TOD they could collect about 260 crore rupees. So like say that the BRT was like say that really earning out of this. So like that even the political support was there, the administrative support was there, and the one must requirement is that the system should be designed on policy basis, not on the person basis. Like so that like say if the one commissioner come and then like say that he changes everything, no, it should be like say very clear through the participatory action through general board and standing committee, and then you will able to do that in proper way. Then very important thing is that like say we should also see that how we can do the last mile connectivity. So these are the some lessons what like I can share with you, and this is the even today it's working perfectly. So like say for the like say that in the 10 minutes what I can like say that give you that in the best way. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vijayji, and bringing up this very important point that Rajkot Municipal Corporation did it with their own staff. So it's a really good example of capacity of government officials. So really great to know that. And also your last point on how commissioners, I mean, they should really follow the visionary documents of the city or policies, etc., sanctioned rather than just implementing their own thoughts, because this was also raised by Mangesh Ji that when commissioner changes, there are changes on the ground and in the projects also. So thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing your experience. With this, handing over to you, Kirti Bhai, for sharing your experience on the Pune report or maybe other reports as well, and summing up today's session. I'm sorry, we don't have time for question and answers. We would have loved to discuss some of the questions by the participants, but there is day 2. Tomorrow also we'll be having more panelists and experts. So please join tomorrow. So I hope you will get answers to some of your questions. Over to you, Kirti Bhai.
No, Pranjali ji, you have been absolutely wonderful, but let me contradict you a bit. And that is this, that we had started by saying that we'll not accept time limit, limitation. And we have run webinars which have gone into 3 hours, 3.5 hours. This is only 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I see number of very important faces, I think in this list. And therefore, and I have no desire to present anything. I'll take 1 minute.
Okay.
But my suggestion is this, that, we request, we had announced this, that this is not only a meeting of the people who are invited to speak. This is a meeting of everyone who joins. And we also said that we are making a technical system in such a way that anyone who wants to come, join, can speak. And therefore, Pranjali ji, my request is this, that pull out another 15 minutes, invite people to come and make small comments, suggestions, presentation. Let's go up to at least 8:40. And then I think, I'll take over again and take 1 minute to do whatever I want to do. So thank you very much. Please invite people to come.
Okay, great. It's
you.
great that we have more time. So those who want to share their viewpoints, maybe can raise their hands. And I can see Jugal Rathiji, who represents PMP Pravasi Manch. I can see Sanskriti Menon, who has worked on communication outreach for the BRT, and there are many other faces. Like Ranjana from IIT. I mean, there are many.
I see Dinesh Abral there, and and a number of people. Of course, there are a lot.
Number of people, yeah. Please raise your hand and please share your views.
Please. Let me also say one thing. If 8 o'clock was the time we were supposed to end, and this is an overrun, and therefore, if you have other commitment and if you would want to leave, kindly leave. It's no disrespect to this entire wonderful effort. But if you could stay, it would be wonderful to have you here till the end. So thank you very much. Pranjali ji, whom are you inviting?
I can't see any hand raised, but I would like to hear from Jugal Rathi ji. Can you hear us, Rathi sir? He's there, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's there. He's just open. Okay. Rathi sir.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. Thank you. I hope as I said earlier, somebody said that I'm not any expert or any authority on that. I'm just a simple user for decades. And so I'm supposed to speak tomorrow also. So not much about today I can contribute.
No issues, sir. So anyone else? Or Kirti bhai, if you want to invite anyone to share.
Dinesh ji, I think you want to say anything in a few minutes? Abral sahab.
Firstly, Kirti bhai, thank you. And I'm glad that I accepted your request and your plea that Dinesh, you should join. And I learned a lot, number one. And thank you very much, Kirti bhai, for, provoking me into accepting, though it was Pune related BRT, and Delhi we really ended up losing BRTS. BRT, you know that, and I used to argue with so many friends here in Delhi that we should have defended BRT, but the point that always I keep it in my mind that among the elite, the private vehicle people actually prevail, and I know resisting private vehicle, one did it till about 2000, but after that, in Delhi also, I had to also buy a car. I was always traveling by bus, etc., though I could have afforded any time private vehicle as far as concerned. And I think this is the struggle within the middle class and upper middle class and elite as a whole. And I think Ranjit brought that particular point out, and even others have brought out, Siddharth and others. And I think that's a very important point. How are we going to regulate? And I think designing streets for, for what? For limiting the traffic itself. Also meaning that will be limiting the cars itself also. And whether there is, and I know we are not making cars any costlier in terms of parking facilities. In fact, if you look at in the localities, cars dominate. And in fact, and where I live, as far as is concerned, there are every day, fights on where to park the car and who will park the car and how much time does it take to even come out of the locality as far as is concerned. And I think private vehicles need to be regulated. And I think there has to be a law on that. There has to be a policy on that. I don't see at the moment a policy on that. And I think Ranjit brought that particular point out. It's very, very well. It's finally a power struggle between people who own private vehicles and the BRT. And that's what happened in Delhi, as far as is concerned. So my last point, as far as is concerned, and I think very good points came out on the question of governance and the law which has to be followed and has not been followed. With due respect to Ramanath Jha ji, and I think if there's a will, we could have allocated money for buses, and that's a struggle going on in Delhi itself also. And I think it's a question of finally political as well as administrative will. And I think that's lacking because we do not value public transport as much as we should value, because we come from a certain class and that class does not value probably public transport. I think maybe that's the point I want to make, that we need to educate our own class that you are bringing upon yourself climate change, congestion, air pollution, and whatnot, etc., etc. And I think we need to really do that particular campaign. Thank you very much for giving me an insight into what experts talked. It was a wonderful meeting. I have learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Ramnath, sir. You're muted. You're muted.
You're on mute, sir. You need to unmute yourself.
I had said after Pranjali's remarks about municipal finances that there are enough finances. And if the municipal corporation is willing to provide finances for transport, they would find the finances. I think I'll go back to the initial remarks that I made. First, the municipal corporation should ask whether it should take up responsibilities which are not allocated to it. Transport is not an allocation to the municipal bodies. It is a state subject. So just municipal corporations are very keen to run medical colleges and medical hospitals of that order, which is not their function, they are bound to land themselves up in a situation where they will not have enough funds. I don't know whether Pranjali ma'am is aware that Schedule 12 talks about urban planning as the first responsibility of the municipal corporation. So if you read that, out of the 18 functions that are listed, urban planning comes right at the beginning. Tell me which corporation in the country has been able to implement in a period of 20 years, even 1/4 of the plan that they made. And one of the chief reasons why they cannot is because they cannot. They don't have the money. The land acquisition cost is humongous. And I don't need to again repeat what the central finance commissions themselves have said. I mean, Vijay Kelkar's report was quite clear that the municipal corporations need 8% of the GST to be transferred to them to make them viable. So it's not a question. And these calculations have already been made by the Ahluwalia committee report way back in the early 2000s. Municipal corporations are in dire straits, leave alone the bad governance, malfeasance, etc. They further contribute to it. But the crux of the question is they don't have their priorities right. They are stepping into directions which are not their responsibility, and they don't have money to implement most of them.
No, sir. I think I should clarify this point. Ranjit also clarified it. We are not talking about total budget. We are just talking about transportation budget. In Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, we are following up for last 4-5 years. They are spending 1,000 crore rupees for transport, out of which almost 80% goes for building flyovers, widening of roads. Forget about other priorities. And Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, Mumbai, they have sufficient budget for transportation. So it's not about transport versus solid waste management. So I think within transport, they will have to prioritize what is CMP is saying.
I'll tell you what they can prioritize.
Yeah.
Roads, building roads, bridges is one of the functions of the municipal corporation. Read Schedule 12 functions. It lists roads, bridges, culverts, viaducts. All of these are municipal responsibilities. Public transport is not. It is the responsibility of the state, and the state has to step in to provide this in cities. I mean, either you follow the law that is written or you don't follow the law.
Yes, but I think this should have been studied during the comprehensive mobility plan when it said that certain projects have to be done, and when the corporation is doing non-CMP projects, which are nowhere listed.
I'm not arguing
About,
against public
I mean,
transport.
just to clarify, and it's good to have this kind of a discussion. And I think Amit Singh has also raised some point in the chat box. Maybe he would like to unmute and share his thoughts.
You see, these people are spending 1,000 crores per kilometer on a metro project, which for the past 7 years, they have been building this metro and it has not delivered anything. Then they spent 1,000 crores on a 2.3 kilometer flyover in Chandni Chowk. So if you look at the average cost of that flyover per meter, it is more than 30 lakhs of rupees, even if you consider the 17-kilometer approach roads that they put around. Are these actually functions of the municipal corporation? Now they are talking about making a service road which is 12 meters into 24 meters next to the highway which bypasses Pune city. So that highway, which was supposed to be 84 meters, is now going to become a 100-meter highway, including of these service roads. This is the kind of madness that occupies the imagination of these municipal corporation authorities. And none of them have the temerity to put in a plan to say we will put in 8,000 buses over a period of the next 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and what have you. And maybe we will do a public-private partnership arrangement to ensure that it can be a bus service like an Uber or an Ola or whatever, where people on apps can read when the bus is coming and how will I get a place to sit. These are the simplest possible solutions that can come through, but they do not want to implement that. Instead, they will be doing these fancy flyovers and increasing the width of Ganesh Kind Road from 36 meters to 45 meters, if you please. So it will be 6 lanes on one side of Ganesh Kind Road, which will come in rain into 3 bottlenecks wherever there are stations, wherever there are these metro stations. And this kind of nonsense goes on, and nobody has a clue about how much money is going to be spent on that project, because they themselves don't have a clue. They themselves don't know that what is going to be the top line, what is the bill the citizens of Pune are going to be left holding after they finish their Adarsh road projects of expanding 15 roads, out of which Ganesh Kind Road is going to be the primary road, and so on and so forth. And then they fell the tree cover. They do not want to look at public transportation in entirety. This goes on, and then we are told, oh, but the municipal corporation is supposed to look at roads. Then what about Section 63 of the Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act? Under that, the municipal corporation doesn't have a concern with regard to these highways. They're supposed to look at garbage first, treat sewage, keep our streets clean. Those are the most important priorities. Unfortunately, we do not get clean air. We are living in a circumstance where our soil is contaminated because of all the garbage. And I do not even want to begin talking about the sewage and the polluted water that we get drinking from tankers. 20% of Pune is today dependent on tankers. So providing water, providing transportation, providing clean air is not a priority. The only priority is to build more roads, pour more concrete, get more FSI going, and get more taxes. So I have no idea how which end is which over here.
Valid points, Amit. And this Ganesh Kind Road widening at the cost of cutting all the trees, and actually it was sanctioned to be BRT corridor, and BRT never came into existence on this street. Anyways, we can keep on discussing this very interesting topic. Kirti bhai, maybe
Pranjali, can I come in? Pranjali,
wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to put in one question, because if Mr. Ramanth Jha sir is still there, when we are talking about that public transportation is not as per the act. So the money that is being now currently put in for the metro by the Pune Municipal Corporation, does it come into the purview or it doesn't come into the purview? If bus system is not in the purview, then the metro is also not in the purview, and it is beyond the capacity of PMC, or legally it is not the PMC's job.
Yeah, you're right. But the problem here is that the municipal corporations are creatures of the state, right? So if your boss says, do this, I mean, there will be more municipal commissioner who will say, no, I will not do it. Because if this is a directive from the state, just as BRT was a directive from Government of India, it was not thought of by municipal bodies. So if your big bosses tell you do it, you do it. all of us, I mean, as an architect, if your owner says, I want the house to be built in this fashion, you better build that house in that fashion. You'll advise him at least. In the municipal corporations these days, they don't even give advice. They just follow what has been told. And you can't crib with that.
Ranjit
Saab,
you.
you wanted to have a last word?
So, is there any possibility, just one, is there any possibility of getting this legal mandate for the corporation to do the public transportation system?
Yeah, you have to make statutory changes. It's anyway they are doing it. They are doing so many things which is not legally binding, but they have stepped into those areas. As I told you, I mean, corporations are running municipal or medical colleges. Higher education is not the cup of municipal bodies. It is primary education, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I think we can take it up some other time.
Bakshi wanted to say something. Dr. Nilanjan, are you there? Maybe
Even Ranjit sir had raised his hand.
Yeah, maybe Nilanjan and after that Ranjit. Yeah, please. I think there is some issue with her mic. Nilanjana, can you? We can't hear you. Anyways, we can move to Ranjit. Ranjit, maybe you can.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have to agree with Mr. Jha that, you know, if we really want good governance, then we have to have some adherence to, I think, the policies and the statutes that are laid down. The only issue is sometimes you can be a little creative with what's been given to you, and you must go with what's given to you. So the Schedule 12 actually does give you two openings, which I just want to put forth. Whether that's the right way to do things or not can certainly be debated, but it does talk about protection of the environment. And I think if we therefore consider that improving public transport is in fact essential for preserving our environment, including the issues of air pollution, then perhaps that could be justified. It's a little bit of a workaround. I do admit that, why have workarounds for something that is so critical, such an essential element of the city? So I'm not disagreeing with what he said earlier. And there's also one more that says that you have public amenities, including street lighting, public lots, bus stops. So it does mention bus stops and public conveniences. Now, sometimes these words, I don't know if they're put in essentially to allow other kinds of things to happen, but certainly one could argue that public transport is a public convenience, unless there's something that I am not aware of where these things have been further elucidated. So I just wanted to put that forth.
Bus stops are there because land belongs to the municipal corporation along the roads. So that comes in the realm of the municipal corporation. And public conveniences essentially mean toilets, etc. That's how they word it these days. Although you can interpret it in various ways.
Anyone else?
See, let me just come in here. Let's look at what is going on in Pune, all right? So Pune is right now paying direct taxes, that is income tax plus corporate tax, worth close to 1 lakh crores every year. If you look at the GST numbers, we are paying something similar. I think 65-70,000 crores is the GST collection of Pune alone. Now, the state budget, this Maharashtra state budget, is 5.5 lakh crores a year. Just Mumbai Municipal Corporation budget is 57,000 crores. Pune Municipal Corporation budget is 10,000 crores. Greater Mumbai Municipal Corporation budget is another 38,000 crores. So between this Mumbai-Pune region, if you consider all these corporations, whether it's Kalyan Dombivli, Thane, Lonavala, whatever, we are spending close to 1.2 lakh crores. This is over and above the state budget of 5.5 lakh crores. So if you are telling me that these people don't have money to buy 8,000 very high quality mini buses, which have Wi-Fi in them and electric charging points and which can commute between all these Pune streets, and you see every 500 meters you have a bus which will arrive at about whatever 2-3 minutes time, at maybe 500 meters distance from wherever it is you live. And you can get into this bus and charge your phone, work on your computer, reach your destination, and avoid having to park someplace or avoid having all these hassles. And if it's just going to cost you 8,000 crores and these people cannot find the money, with Pune paying close to 2 lakh crores in taxes every year, I do not know what to say. There's something wrong with the math over here.
The math that is wrong is that whatever gets collected in Pune does not come to the corporation. It goes to Government of India. It goes to via Government of India to the state government. The municipal corporation has only property tax, and your property tax is equal to 1 month's electricity bill that you pay. So that is the annual bill for all the functions that the municipality is supposed to do. So saying that there is a lot of collection in Pune, unfortunately doesn't translate into the coffers of the municipal body. This is something that has been pointed by the Central Finance Commission. I am only repeating what they said, and I think they know best.
So let me put it another way. Let's say we have a place like Hinjewadi, which is exporting 1 lakh crore rupees worth of software every year right now. We have 4.5 lakh people every day who commute to Hinjewadi for work, and they commute out of Hinjewadi every day. The Hinjewadi is about 8,500 acres, and the population of Hinjewadi is only 40,000. These 4.5 lakh people spend their time commuting to Hinjewadi about 2.5 hours in a day going in, and 2.5 hours a day going back home. Now, if I consider that if you were to take a normal commute time of about 1 hour going in and 1 hour going out, and half the day, let us say you spend that half of your commute in going in and going out, the balance 2.5 hours is just spent being choked in traffic because public transportation doesn't exist. So everyone needs to have their own personal transportation, and that causes every single traffic lane out of Hinjewadi and going into Hinjewadi to be choked. Now, 25% of the time, the productive time per annum, is being spent being choked in traffic because there is no public transportation. This 25% directly would mean 25,000 crore rupees worth of productive software exports. That is the opportunity cost, which is lost because people cannot commute to Hinjewadi and get out of Hinjewadi in time. This can be very easily solved by having maybe a few thousand buses which will ferry these employees to their residences and ferry them back to Hinjewadi in the morning time. And the peak hour traffic, which we normally experience today, can be avoided. But funnily, that solution, whether it is the corporation getting together with the Industrial Association of Hinjewadi or with the central government or whatever, the state government, somehow seems to be eluding everybody. So can't a municipal commissioner who is proactive actually sit down and say, okay, let's look at this problem and let's try and see how we can collaborate together to find a solution? What is so difficult?
Yeah, as Mr. Gadgil said, I think locally some solutions, small solutions can be worked out, but we have a huge problem in regard to urbanization as such. You know, why should, for instance, Pune have 60 lakh people? It should keep on expanding exponentially till it kills itself the way Mumbai has done. The Charles Correa Commission long time back had pointed out that there are 350 gems and spurs in this country that ought to be developed, and you should follow the model of decentralized urbanization. Now, if we are not going to follow that, then obviously there are only a handful of cities that are going to bear the burden of generating employment. That is what is killing these cities. So the model that China followed, for all the criticism that we made of China, was to develop 500 cities. And they, because they are a communist country, they were able to spread their populations all over. We are building the same city into a nightmarish situation by just adding on populations. We know that, I mean, the Indian cities are today the densest cities in the world. There is only one city which goes beyond us, and that is Dhaka. So, I mean, Dhaka is, if that becomes the model to follow, I don't see where there is a future for these cities.
So can't somebody go and speak to this brain dead man, this Mr. Bimal Patel, who feels that stacking people over people is the solution for all our cities in India? and then he's going to stack traffic over traffic to make that the solution for all our cities in India. We cannot treat our sewage, we cannot treat our garbage, we cannot supply clean water to all our citizens who are living in our city. But you want to continue stacking people over people with this 5 FSI business. And I do not know where it's going to lead us.
No, it's leading us to doom, that's all. Kirti can help us. He can talk to the urban planners at the national level.
Can I just come in, Pranjali, for a minute for this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When Mr. Jha mentioned about the Charles Correa Committee report and other cities to take over, but it is the complete belief of the country on one hand that there is migration and it is only cities which will absorb the people, and the cities will be the engines of growth and economic growth. The McKinsey report is the biggest culprit maybe, which says, and the belief is not one man or whoever it is. There's a complete belief in the planning commission and all the people that there is no way out but to keep on doing this. So 70% of the India is going to be urbanized and it will be on these concentrated on these cities. So this belief is there. It's not a one-man belief. It is a belief amongst all the decision makers in the country, in the center as well as in the state, I think. What is your opinion on it? I don't know.
I don't think that is true. I don't think that is true because the government of India is thinking about small and medium towns. I think the amount of effort that needs to put in and the clarity that has to be there has not come about. I'm sure it will come at some time, and migration is bound to happen. In fact, migration is much too slow in India because you don't have those cities to take up that kind of migration. They're all going to the same cities. So if you spread it out, it will be greater migration. That's how urbanization takes place.
I fully agree with you. Means basically what you need good health, you need good schooling and education, and you need good survival money. Money to survive well. That's all. So the economy is to survive well, good health and good education, and obviously recreation. The fourth thing could be recreation.
I think we can hand over to Kirti Bhai.
Yes. I think one piece of information. Ramnath Saab and Prasanna ji, I think, mentioned the first National Commission on Urbanization, the Charles Correa Commission. I am one of the surviving members of that commission. And I also wanted to inform you that for the last 3 years, I've been constantly hammering at national government and state government to set up a state commission on urbanization. I've been saying that this commission on urbanization that Charles headed, and I was a part of it, happened 35 years ago. It was in mid-80s. And cities have changed. Cities, challenges have changed dramatically. You can't really solve cities' problems in a firefighting mode. You require vision and perspective and future. I'm glad that neither the national government has listened, nor the Gujarat government has listened, nor Tamil Nadu government has listened, nor the Maharashtra government has listened, but today Kerala government has listened. And the first state commission on urbanization has come up. I just heard this morning from my friend. And I personally feel it's an absolute must. Cities are also about thinking. Cities are about people. And we need to think of cities about future. And for cities, tomorrow is today. And therefore, you need to think and you got to invest energy and time doing it. Unfortunately, it's not happening. Second thing that I wanted to tell you, Ramnath Saab and Amit Singh ji, is this. And I give this example time and again when it comes to constitutions and the system and how systems and constitutions prevent things from happening. And I give this global example. When the United Nations was set up, the first Secretary General Tyagwe Lay, a Burmese, used constitution and system to say anything came up with United Nations, he said it cannot be done because constitution doesn't permit it, the system doesn't permit it. Same system, same constitution. Dag Hammarskjöld took United Nations to war in Congo and Katanga. Same constitution. And therefore, it's not so much the system and institution, it is the leadership, it's the people. And I think this particular message needs to get out. It's a very important thing. It's leadership that is an issue, and we have a major paucity of leadership. We are suffering leadership problems in a great way. That's number one. Second thing, third thing, whatever. I really want to thank this group, and I don't know how to thank them. I see Shivanand Swamy still here, and I told him to make a presentation and go away. He is getting his son married probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow. He's still around. I see Desai Saab here still. He's in a marriage somewhere, and I think talking from the hotel. Ramanth Jha, sir, I approached him only yesterday, and busy as he is, not only agreed, he stayed back, not only 2 hours, but almost the speed of hours. So thank you very, very much for this wonderful group. I just don't have adequate words to thank you, and please accept my grateful thanks. I wanted to take a special reference to Mangesh Bhai. The reason is this. When I was inviting him, I made it very, very clear. I'm not seeking a report, you to report right and go back and tell what newspaper, what transpired here. I said, I want you to be here as a participant, as a contributor, as an equal partner in the debate. And he was simply wonderful in terms of ideas. So Mangesh Bhai, if you're here somewhere, thank you very, very much. You justified my faith in you and the whole system. I cannot think of a much richer debate, and I know it's wrong English, much richer, because it's so rich in the content, it's so rich in feeling, it's so rich in ideas that we couldn't have expected anything more from this particular meeting. What this meeting also brings out is what I started saying. This entire webinar series that we are running runs on an assumption that there's huge amount of skills and ability and knowledge outside the government system. And that needs to be tapped in dealing with our difficult issues. And we are trying to make an effort to invite them, to get them together, to create a platform. And there couldn't be greater evidence than this particular meeting that there's a huge amount of knowledge outside the system, and we should think about it, bring it back into the mainstream of problem solving on creative approaches. And my last point is this, that today is the first session. We are running a second session tomorrow at the same time. And I especially want to invite you, even if you are here today, because tomorrow is the 100th webinar that we have been running for the last 3 years. And I'm extremely happy and extremely proud to say that it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. I don't know who has discussed urban issue for 3 years in open public forum for such a long time. We have been doing this. We've been very, very fortunate, and it's been possible because everyone who's sitting here and a large number of people who are not here have supported, helped, and accepted our invitation and came in. In fact, I wrote a small note just saying that you won't believe me, that this 100 webinars is not a low-cost affair. It's a no-cost affair. It has cost us almost nothing doing this. And I go on saying that you don't require a huge amount of money to developing ideas, to bringing people together, to look at systemic issues with greater clarity, understanding, and depth. And therefore, tomorrow is the 100th webinar. If you could come and join, please come. We'll be very happy to have you on. Thank you very much, Pranjali ji. Thank you very much, Bhuma ji, who's working behind the same. And thank you very much, this young little architect, Kimaya, who has been behind this and organizing this whole effort. So I'm extremely grateful to my colleagues who have made this possible, and for this first-rate, high-class meeting that we had today. We look forward to tomorrow with lot of hope and expectation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kirti. Bye. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you,
See you
Kirti bhai.
tomorrow.
Thank you.